Chapter 1412. The dark demonic body was extremely mysterious. Seriously speaking, it was not the same type of body-refining technique as the Golden Body 9 transformations and the Golden Battle Body. This body-refining technique only had 3 levels. The first level was very ordinary. At the second level, there would be an additional pair of wings on the back. At the third level, there would be another pair of wings. This was also why the 6-winged supremacy had 3 pairs of wings on her back. It was because she had cultivated the dark demonic body to the 3rd level. Once the dark demonic body was completed, her speed would be extremely fast. The 3 pairs of wings on her back naturally contained the power of time and space. After spending 3,000 years, Murong Qingcheng had cultivated the dark demonic body to the 2nd level and had an additional pair of wings on her back. As for the 3rd level, if there was no opportunity, she might not be able to break through in 30,000 years. This was something that could not be rushed. There were only 7,000 years left before they entered the chaotic battlefield. The Human Alliance and the Demons Alliance had both added many supremacies. In the Human Alliance, besides Xu Jing and Murong Qingcheng, there were more than 10 people who had advanced to the supremacy level, such as Dantai Mingyu, the Golden Emperor, and the Green Emperor. In fact, Xu Jing and Murong Qingcheng had become supremacies later than them. However, in terms of the speed of improvement, these people naturally could not compare with Xu Jing and Murong Qingcheng. After all, the one standing behind them was Yi Chen. Back then, Yi Chen had benefited a lot from the Black Wind Stream and obtained countless demon knowledge. It was no exaggeration to say that this was more useful than the inheritance of the supremacy of the 3 realms. Without this demon knowledge, Yi Chen's foundation was ultimately limited. Without this foundation, it would be difficult for Yi Chen to compete with the first demon lord with the Great Demon King bloodline, let alone suppress the other party. With countless demonic knowledge, Yi Chen was naturally very skilled in teaching Xu Jing and Murong Qingcheng. In just a few thousand years, the two's martial primordial spirits had reached the critical point, and they were only one step away from breaking through to the bronze level. However, Yi Chen did not hide anything. Occasionally, he would give some pointers to some of the newly promoted supremes. As for whether they could upgrade their martial way primordial spirit to the bronze level before entering the chaos battlefield, that would depend on their own luck. In fact, Yi Chen did not wish for all the supremes of the Human Race Alliance to enter the chaos battlefield. After all, if that happened, how could the Human Race Alliance contend against the Demons Alliance without any supremes? Of course, regarding this point, Yi Chen was not very worried. If the Bronze Yuan spirit was so easy to cultivate, it wouldn't be the Bronze Yuan spirit. Back then, in order to cultivate the Bronze Yuan spirit, he had paid a huge price. If it wasn't for the help of the will of the desolate god, it was unknown whether he would still be alive. Don't expose these 4 Sky Saint artifacts unless it's a last resort. Normally, you can just use the Earth Saint artifacts. Xu Jing and Murong Qingcheng had become supremes one after another. Yi Chen had taken out 4 Sky Saint artifacts for them at once. 2 Sky Saint artifact armors and 2 Sky Saint artifact weapons. Although they were all 1 star, it still stunned Xu Jing and Murong Qingcheng for a long time. In the entire universe, not to mention Sky Saint artifacts, even Earth Saint artifacts were extremely rare. It was unexpected that Yi Chen could take out 4 Sky Saint artifacts at once. Could it be that Yi Chen had obtained a Saint artifact treasure trove outside? This is my harvest from the desolate god continent. Yi Chen hadn't told the 2 about this yet. He wanted to give them a surprise. One had to know that there was a huge difference between having and not having a Saint artifact. Without a Saint artifact, the 2 of them were only at the peak of supremes. On the other hand, with an Earth Saint artifact, the 2 of them were at the level of supremes. With a Sky Saint artifact, the 2 of them could walk unhindered among the supremes. Ordinary supremes wouldn't be able to do anything to them. This was the terror of a Sky Saint artifact. It could instantly increase one's strength by 1,000,000 times. Recently, Yi Chen didn't know what was going on. His brows were constantly twitching. After thinking about it, Yi Chen felt that this should be a warning sign. The first demon sovereign hadn't appeared for a long time. With his personality and bloodline, It was impossible for him to be unknown. He was probably accumulating his strength in the dark. Although Yi Chen's improvement was fast, the bloodline of a great demon king wasn't an ordinary person. Yi Chen's only shortcoming was his Yuan spirit. Yi Chen felt that it was necessary for him to improve his Yuan spirit to the silver intermediate rank. The heavenly river was vast and boundless. Ever since he became a sovereign, Yi Chen hadn't seriously explored the heavenly river. Instead, he went to hell many times. With his space-time ultimacy, Yi Chen could see many more things on the heavenly river. The entire sky above the heavenly river was like countless space-time layers stacked together. If he wasn't careful, he might be far away from his original position. There are countless treasures on the heavenly river, waiting for the fated one. I wonder how my luck is this time. Yi Chen felt that his luck had always been good. However, there were also times when he wasn't lucky. It was impossible to say that he would be lucky every time. Time passed. In the blink of an eye, Yi Chen had already been in the heavenly river for over 100 years. During this period, he found many treasures. However, none of them caught his eye. On this day, Yi Chen felt a heat wave from afar. Heat wave. Yi Chen was very curious. The space-time above the heavenly river overlapped. It was almost impossible to transmit heat over from afar. Even if legendary supremes were to fight here, they wouldn't be able to transmit their energy far. Let's go and take a look. Following the source of the heat wave, Yi Chen rushed over. After a short while, Yi Chen saw a volcanic island. It was a huge volcanic island. Above the volcanic island, fiery clouds filled the sky. The scarlet light caused the water of the heavenly river to turn red. It was as if magma was flowing there. Rumble. There was only one volcano on the volcanic island. The volcano trembled, and a scarlet pillar of fire soared into the sky, spewing into the depths of the fiery clouds. A terrifying heat wave spread out, as if it was the end of the world. It's Mount Doomsday. Yi Chen's eyes lit up. Mount Doomsday would usually contain extremely precious fire attribute heavenly treasures. The older the Mount Doomsday, the better the fire attribute heavenly treasures. Without any hesitation, Yi Chen flew toward Mount Doomsday. Mount Doomsday was really too big. It was tens of billions of miles tall and had a diameter of hundreds of billions of miles. Only the mouth of the volcano was very small, only about 50 million miles wide. Roar. As soon as he arrived at the mouth of the volcano, Yi Chen was attacked by a fire monster. This was a fire monster that looked like a dragon but wasn't a dragon. It looked like a bat but wasn't a bat. It was a ferocious beast unique to Mount Doomsday, Doomsday Fire Beast. It was said that even the weakest Doomsday Fire Beast had the strength of a super supreme being. Yi Chen felt that the records weren't fake. This Doomsday Fire Beast in front of him had the strength of a super supreme being. It was extremely ferocious. Ignoring the other party, Yi Chen's figure flashed and flew toward the interior of Mount Doomsday. The Doomsday Fire Beast was enraged. It roared, and a scarlet sound wave spread out. In the next moment, a large number of Doomsday Fire Beasts surged out from the interior of the volcano like a tide. However, Yi Chen's defense was too strong. He charged around as if there was no one around. These Doomsday Fire Beasts couldn't even stop him for a moment. Mount Doomsday would only erupt once in a very long time. Yi Chen slowly landed at the bottom of the volcano. He looked around and couldn't help but exclaim in surprise. The entire bottom of the volcano was actually filled with spirit energy fire crystals. Spirit energy fire crystals could temper spirit bodies. There were 4 grades: elementary, intermediate, high, and peak. Elementary spirit energy fire crystals were for rank 1 and 2 spirit bodies, intermediate spirit energy fire crystals were for rank 3 and 4 spirit bodies, high spirit energy fire crystals were for rank 5 and 6 spirit bodies, and peak spirit energy fire crystals were for rank 7 and 8 spirit bodies. A long time ago, Yi Chen had seen many spirit energy fire crystals in an old planet in the Black Tortoise ruins. However, most of them were elementary, intermediate, and few were high. Chapter 14:13. Casually collecting some top-grade fire crystals, Yi Chen walked toward the magma lake in the center. The temperature of the magma lake was extremely high, and lava would spurt out from time to time. Yi Chen squinted his eyes as he sensed the aura of the fire laws. He inwardly speculated that if one were to be hit by a lava flow, even a legend-rank sovereign would fall. They would only be able to protect themselves if they had a Sky Saint artifact armor. Due to the high temperature, the space above the magma lake was extremely distorted. Yi Chen's vision could only penetrate millions of miles, and the diameter of the entire magma lake was billions of miles. Frowning, Yi Chen took a deep breath and flew toward the depths of the magma lake. It's so hot. Above the magma lake, the heat was monstrous. Yi Chen felt that even time and space were hot. There were almost no other heavenly Tao laws here, only the violent law of fire. Not daring to be careless, Yi Chen pulled out the firmament sword and flew carefully. There was no pattern to the eruption of magma. The entire magma lake surged with waves, seeming as if it would erupt at any moment. Flying above the magma lake, Yi Chen not only had to avoid the magma, but he also had to carefully observe the undulations of the magma lake. As soon as something went wrong, he would immediately retreat. After all, he didn't dare to be certain that the black tortoise saint armor could withstand the might of the eruption. Boom! The deeper he went into the magma lake, the more lava surged into the sky. Dozens of lava flows interweaved into a net and covered Yi Chen. Holding the firmament sword tightly, Yi Chen blasted out the black hole stance. The next moment, the black hole was destroyed, and the lava flows exploded, turning into a rain of fire. The rain of fire fell on the protective sword energy enhanced by the black tortoise sacred armor, making sizzling sounds. Small island. Finally, Yi Chen saw a small island several million li away. It was entirely red in color, and had a diameter of 100 meters. Any wave of lava would be able to submerge it. At the center of the island, a small tree glowing with a fiery light stood there. There were 3 fist-sized fruits on the tree, and intense flames were bursting out of them. Heavenly Demon Fire Spirit Fruit. How many tens of thousands of years would it take? Yi Chen's breathing stagnated. The Celestial Fiend Fire Spirit Fruit was one of the treasures used to temper the spirit body. The higher the age, the stronger the tempering effect. Normally, a 50,000-year-old Celestial Fiend Fire Spirit Fruit was rare. This Celestial Fiend Fire Spirit Fruit tree was at least 100,000 years old. What a pleasant surprise. Originally, Yi Chen planned to look for some heavenly treasures that were beneficial to the martial Dao Yuan spirit. He did not expect to find a Sky Fiend Fire Spirit Fruit tree. With these 3 Sky Fiend Fire Spirit Fruits, Yi Chen was confident that he could advance his spirit body to the late stage of the 9th order. This way, his immortal sword body would improve further, and he might even reach the 17th level. I'm afraid it won't be that easy to obtain the Sky Demon Fire Spirit Fruit. Looking around the island, Yi Chen's expression turned solemn. Normally, heavenly treasures would be guarded by powerful beasts, and the better the treasure, the more terrifying the beast guarding it. This was the opponent's home ground, and the law of fire was very dense here. The opponent could easily fight those at a higher level than him. Let's see what kind of beast is guarding this place. With a burst of speed, Yi Chen flew toward the island. In just a few blinks of an eye, Yi Chen was less than 10,000 li away from the island. At this moment, the magma lake below shook violently, and with a rumble, the sky was filled with magma. A huge beast broke out of the water and flew toward Yi Chen. With a glance, Yi Chen clearly saw the appearance of the beast. It looked exactly like the Doomsday Fire Beast, but it did not have wings. If Yi Chen guessed correctly, this should be the Volcano King born from the Doomsday Volcano. The Volcano King was covered in red scales, and there was a pair of flaming horns on its head. The horns clearly contained a faint law of fire. It was not hard to imagine that even a demigod would be seriously injured if they were stabbed by these horns. Fortunately, Yi Chen did not find any law of fire on the Volcano King's teeth or claws. Otherwise, he would have just run away. There was no way he could beat it. The Volcano King's speed was as fast as a flash of fire. Fortunately, Yi Chen's reaction was not slow either. With a wave of the firmament sword, a sword light met the Volcano King. Boom! The shockwave shook, and the Volcano King was sent flying. Yi Chen could not help but sway. Fortunately, it should be a quasi-saint beast. However, the attack from that pair of horns is definitely at the saint beast level. I cannot let it hit me. Yi Chen was most afraid of the pair of horns. Roar! The Volcano King was furious. The horns on its head shone brightly, and two flaming spears extended toward Yi Chen. At the same time that Yi Chen dodged one flaming spear, the firmament sword cut the other one. The huge recoil was transmitted from the firmament sword to Yi Chen's right arm, causing Yi Chen's body to shake. The law of fire has been isolated by the firmament sword, but the explosive power caused by the law of fire still exists. Yi Chen felt the blood in his body boil. Passively taking a beating was not a way out. Yi Chen forcefully raised his sword energy and attacked the Volcano King with a heavy sword move. Immediately, the magma lake between the two split open. The incomparably heavy sword light completely locked onto the Volcano King, making it unable to move. As if sensing the power of the sword light, the Volcano King lowered its head, and its horns faced the sword light. Poochie! The sword light shattered, and the Volcano King somersaulted several times in the air. Finally, it slid across the surface of the magma lake for nearly 1,000 miles. Visible cracks could be seen on its forehead. Although the horns had shattered the sword light, the remaining sword light was still powerful and slightly broke through its defense. Chance! Yi Chen's eyes brightened. After a few flashes, he appeared on the Red Island and reached out to pull out the Sky Demon Fire Spirit Fruit Tree. However, to Yi Chen's surprise, there was actually a small red snake coiled around the tree. Because the fruit tree was shining brightly, Yi Chen did not notice this small snake. Just as Yi Chen's palm reached out, the small snake opened its poisonous fangs and bit at Yi Chen's wrist. At the critical moment, Yi Chen's palm drew an arc, passing by a Sky Demon Fire Spirit Fruit Tree. Bam! A Sky Demon Fire Spirit Fruit Tree was suddenly missing. Seeing one less fruit, the red snake was enraged. Its body arched and shot toward Yi Chen. Its speed was so fast that even space and time were distorted. Like a spring that had been pressed to its limit, it suddenly let go. Bang! The red snake looked very small, but its strength was unbelievably great. Yi Chen's whole body flew backward like a flowing light. He flew tens of thousands of miles above the magma lake before he stopped. So scary. Yi Chen had a lingering fear. He felt that this red snake was even scarier than the King of Volcanoes. The King of Volcanoes only had a pair of horns that were more powerful. One Sky Demon Fire Spirit Fruit should be enough. Yi Chen did not plan to fight to the death with the King of Volcanoes and the red snake. These two were not to be trifled with. The key was that they had the means to threaten Yi Chen. Rumble. Before Yi Chen could rejoice at the fact that he had obtained a Sky Demon Fire Spirit Fruit, the entire magma lake suddenly became violent. This was the sign of an eruption. Run. Yi Chen did not care about anything else. He crazily flew toward the shore of the magma lake. As long as he reached the shore, he could use the Black Tortoise sacred armor to resist the power of the eruption. However, no matter how fast Yi Chen was, he could not be faster than the speed of the eruption. In the next moment, the entire magma lake disappeared. A pillar of fire as thick as the magma lake shot up into the sky, wrapping Yi Chen in it. Chapter 14:14. Kai 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 Kai. The protective sword chi rapidly weakened, and only a thin layer remained. In the next moment, the protective sword chi collapsed, and the scorching magma drowned Yi Chen. Boom! Suddenly, a beam of light exploded, pushing the magma away. Outside Yi Chen's body, a black shield of light reappeared. The true power of the Xuanwu Saint armor had been activated. Thank goodness! Yi Chen heaved a sigh of relief. If the Black Tortoise sacred armor had not been able to unleash its true power, even if he did not die, he would have been severely injured and his foundation would have been damaged. Following the pillar of fire, Yi Chen arrived above the crater of the volcano and rushed into the fiery clouds. Whoosh! At this time, the power of the fire pillar had weakened. Yi Chen easily escaped from the fire pillar and flew millions of miles away. With a flip of his palm, the fist-sized celestial fiend fire spirit fruit floated above his palm. A bright red flame burst forth from it, making it look more like a miniature sun than a fruit. A heavenly fiend fire spirit fruit over 100,000 years only exists in legends. I wonder if it can help my spirit body break through from mid-ninth order to late ninth order. Although a heavenly demon fire spirit fruit that was over 100,000 years old was rare in the world, it wasn't that easy to raise a ninth stage spiritual body. Most importantly, Yi Chen wasn't a body refinement sovereign. With a ninth step spirit body, each step was like a different world. Under normal circumstances, unless one was a body refinement sovereign, it would be impossible for them to advance, and they would stay at the early ninth step for the rest of their lives. There were two reasons why Yi Chen was able to raise his spirit body to the mid-ninth step. Firstly, he had collected enough heavenly materials and earthly treasures. Secondly, which was also the most important reason, Yi Chen had created the immortal sword body and could be considered a half-baked body refinement sovereign. Therefore, to advance from the mid-ninth order to the late ninth order was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. Only with the sky demon fire spirit fruit that was over 100,000 years old would it be impossible for Yi Chen's spirit body to advance for a long time. Let's find a place to test it first. After storing the sky demon fire spirit fruit, Yi Chen's figure flashed and disappeared without a trace. On a precipitous island, surging spiritual energy suddenly erupted, turning the entire area red. It was as if a volcano was erupting, venting a powerful force. On the mountainside of the island's only mountain peak, Yi Chen sat cross-legged on the ground. The fiery sky demon fire spirit fruit floated above his head. The heavenly demon fire spirit fruit that was over 100,000 years old had too much spiritual energy. Directly swallowing it would bring Yi Chen a lot of trouble. Yi Chen simply absorbed its energy slowly to temper his body. Traces of fire seeped out from the surface of the sky demon fire spirit fruit and entered through the top of Yi Chen's head. As the fire entered his body, Yi Chen's body emitted a brilliant heat. His clothes had long turned to ashes, revealing the black tortoise sacred armor tattoo on his naked body. So hot, Yi Chen felt as if he had become a furnace. The fire inside was brewing and accumulating. This feeling was very strange. Yi Chen couldn't help but sigh. The human body was too strange. Even as a legendary supremacy, he couldn't see through all the mysteries of the human body. Every time he thought he saw through it, it was actually just the surface layer. Dazzling light flickered. Yi Chen's body glowed, and the surface of his skin gradually turned red, like iron being heated by fire. This situation continued until Yi Chen's entire body seemed to have turned into a red light. His silhouette and appearance couldn't be seen at all. 1 month later, the sky demon fire spirit fruit had shrunk by more than half, and the red light man below was even more brilliant. Still not enough. The red light man raised his head and swallowed the remaining sky demon fire spirit fruit. Boom. The moment he swallowed the sky demon fire spirit fruit, the red light man's 7 orifices shot out light. His eyes shot out a deep red light that pierced through the mountain peak. So powerful. Yi Chen felt that the sky demon fire spirit fruit's power was constantly seeping into him, seeping into a depth that he had never explored before. It was transforming his body in an extremely violent manner, sublimating his physique. Creak. Yi Chen couldn't help but clench his fists. Space-time trembled, and cracks appeared on the island and the mountain peak. The deep red light leaked out from the cracks, and the entire island was like a glowing crystal that was about to shatter. 1 week later, the island still hadn't shattered. An indescribable power was stabilizing the island. Inside the mountain peak, the red light on Yi Chen's body gradually faded. Only his heart was still shining. Waves of surging power rippled out, causing a large number of space-time cracks to appear around Yi Chen. After an unknown amount of time, the red light on his heart also faded, until there was only a little left. Puff! The little red light was extinguished. The instant the red light was extinguished, an invisible wave of air erupted with Yi Chen at the center. The island was instantly torn apart, turning into a rain of stones. Without using any power, Yi Chen floated above the heavenly river. His powerful vitality field gave him the ability to fly in the heavenly river. Is this the late-stage rank 9 spirit body? Yi Chen felt that his body was filled with endless power. It was as if he would never feel tired or exhausted for the rest of his life. Inside the heart, there was an additional black hole. However, this black hole didn't absorb power. Instead, it spat out power. It had become Yi Chen's perpetual motion machine. Inextinguishable core. This black hole was the inextinguishable core. A rank 7 spirit body could give birth to an inextinguishable power. The inextinguishable power could heal any injury, even the origin. However, the consumption was a little high, so it wasn't obvious in the early stages. With a rank 8 spirit body, there would be more and more inextinguishable power. At the rank 9 spirit body, the inextinguishable power would be like a vast ocean. Apart from the origin injuries caused by saint weapons, it could heal almost any injury. But no matter what, the inextinguishable power would eventually be used up. Once it was used up, it would be extremely difficult to recover. However, it was different with an inextinguishable core. The inextinguishable core would constantly spit out inextinguishable power. Although the amount it spat out wasn't much, it had the advantage of being able to last for a long time. As time passed, the inextinguishable power would accumulate. Apart from that, people with an inextinguishable core were extremely difficult to kill. With the same strength, people with an inextinguishable core were 10 times harder to kill. I wonder if I can cultivate the immortal sword body to the 17th level. Yi Chen sat cross-legged in the void. With a wave of his palm, a large number of rank 3 and 4 supreme swords flew out. Activating the immortal sword body, Yi Chen started to absorb the essence of the supreme swords. A dense sword light bloomed as the 16 sword patterns on Yi Chen's body started to wander. The 16th sword pattern turned from a shallow one to a very deep one, which was above the other 15 sword patterns. However, the 17th sword pattern still hadn't appeared. At this moment, the immortal sword body should be at the peak of the 16th level. Letting out a breath of metal air, Yi Chen shook his head. The 17th level wasn't that easy to break through. Thinking about it, it made sense. If the 16th level could block the attack of a demigod, then wouldn't the 17th level be able to ignore the attack of a demigod? Not going to the Doomsday Volcano again, the Sky Demon Fire Spirit Fruit had made Yi Chen's body resistant. If he took a second one, the effect would be greatly reduced. Moreover, he might not be able to beat that red snake and the Volcano King, especially that red snake. Chapter 14-15. In the Celestial River, the passage of time was hard to detect. Unknowingly, Yi Chen had stayed in the Celestial River for a whole 1,000 years. In these 1,000 years, he followed the main branch of the Celestial River and advanced forward. He encountered a level 5 water monster, a Celestial River wonder, and a headless sovereign. In the end, he watched as the headless sovereign disappeared before his eyes. It turned out that the headless sovereign didn't really exist. It was just an illusion formed by the Celestial River's vital energy from the Obsession Sutra. Apart from the headless sovereign, he also saw other illusions of other sovereigns, and they were all real existences. In the 108th year, Yi Chen saw a huge vortex. It was a vortex that shocked even a legendary sovereign like him, who was almost invincible below the demigod realm. He didn't know how big this vortex was. It was at least several light years away. Even when he was far away from the vortex, Yi Chen felt that he could be sucked away at any time. How did this vortex form? Yi Chen felt a rare trace of nervousness. This wasn't because of fear, but because of the unknown. The unknown always made people curious and nervous. No one knew what would happen. My immortal sword body has already reached the peak of the 16th level. Together with the Xianwu Saint armor, ordinary elementary demigods might not be able to kill me. Why don't I go in and take a look? Perhaps it was because he was skilled and daring, or perhaps it was because of his inner demons, but Yi Chen wanted to go in and take a look. After hesitating for a long time, Yi Chen finally made up his mind. As he got closer and closer to the vortex, the suction became stronger and stronger. Whoosh, just as Yi Chen approached the edge of the vortex, a huge suction acted on Yi Chen's body. Without much resistance, Yi Chen was instantly sucked into the center of the vortex and disappeared without a trace. Above the endless winding spring, an old man sat cross-legged. He seemed to be dead, and there was no sign of life on his body. However, every once in a while, a golden light would appear on the old man's body. The golden light was sometimes weak, and sometimes strong. When it was weak, it was like an illusion, flashing for a moment. When it was strong, a large area of the spring would be dyed by the golden light. Even time and space were corroded by the golden light and became solidified, making it hard for people to breathe. Glug glug glug, the spring water boiled and the old man's body glowed with a golden light once again. This time, the golden light was especially intense. The spring water in his vision turned golden and stopped flowing. Under the corrosion of the golden light, time and space turned pale gold. Occasionally, a golden ripple swept past, shaking the universe and reversing the flow of time and space. Demon King Golden Body, defy time. The old man suddenly opened his eyes. His eyes were like golden glass, and the golden light pierced through time and space as if he had seen through the true essence of the spring water. Rumble, rumble, the golden light surged like the tide, and the time and space around the old man started to flow in reverse. The old man's white hair gradually darkened, turning from white to grey, then grey. The old man's appearance gradually became younger. 90 years old, 80 years old, 70 years old, 60 years old. Every time a golden ripple passed by, the old man would become younger. But what was strange was that not only did the old man's aura not weaken because of time reversal, it actually became even stronger. It was as if time reversal could only affect his body and not the power he possessed. After an unknown amount of time, the old man was no longer an old man. At this time, he looked about 40 years old, and his expression was exactly the same as the first demon sovereign. As expected of the Demon King Golden Body, it allowed my time profound to reach perfection in an instant. The first demon sovereign felt that his perception had never been so strong before. Of course, the special nature of the future spring was also one of the important reasons why his time profound reached perfection. Plop. Yi Chen fell into an endless meandering spring water. This spring water was very special. It was actually condensed from the power of time and space. If Yi Chen was any other supremes, they would probably die in a few breaths without any suspense. Yi Chen was shocked. His protective sword energy burst forth, containing the perfect time and space profound to resist the spring water. Could this be one of the 9 springs of hell, the future spring? The Milky Way and the Yellow Springs were 2 sides of the same coin. It was not impossible to come to the future spring from the Milky Way. Yi Chen was different from the first demon sovereign who had entered the future spring. The future spring could not pose a threat to him. After all, his time and space profound had long reached perfection. On the contrary, the future spring could not pose a threat to him. Instead, it allowed him to see a new world. In the spring water, he could feel traces of obscure time and space law. This time and space law was not oppressive. Instead, it was very friendly to Yi Chen. Yi Chen tested it and found that he could guide the flow of time and space of the future spring. He could even reverse the flow of time and space. Right, I can directly use the power of time and space on my martial path Yuanshan. Yi Chen thought of a possibility. He did it. Yi Chen's martial path Yuanshan floated out and was exposed to the spring water. His body was protected by his time and space profound. The flow of the spring water increased, and the strength of his martial path Yuanshan also increased. Success. Yi Chen revealed a look of surprise. He did not expect things to go so smoothly. It was simply an unexpected harvest. What Yi Chen did not know was that in front of him, the first demon sovereign was reversing the flow of the future spring, and he was accelerating it. Soon, the two's powers would collide. The color of the martial path Yuanshan was getting purer and purer, and the power it contained was getting more and more terrifying. Very soon, Yi Chen's martial path Yuanshan reached the intermediate silver rank. At the same time, Yi Chen also broke through from the beginner legendary rank to the intermediate legendary rank. Although the increase in his cultivation didn't increase his combat power, Yi Chen was confident that he could suppress the red snake in battle. Rumble. In front of him, a towering wave suddenly exploded. Yi Chen's body swayed, and his martial path Yuan Shen involuntarily entered his body. What's going on? Yi Chen looked ahead. Amidst the splashing water, Yi Chen saw the figure of the first demon sovereign. The spring water was formed by the power of time and space. It could ignore distance and transmit images. First demon sovereign. Green lotus sword sovereign. The two of them saw each other. Very good. My demon king golden body has reached completion, and I was just about to fight you. The first demon sovereign's voice passed through the splashing water and reached Yi Chen's ears. That's what I was thinking too. An intense battle intent flashed in Yi Chen's eyes. In the end, the two of them were unwilling to be left out. They couldn't beat White Pole Sword Sage and Devil Sage Galwaz, so they treated each other as their only opponent in the universe, and perhaps in the future. Take my fist. Separated by the endless spring water, the first demon sovereign punched over. The future spring was very special. No matter how far away they were, as long as they could sense each other, they could attack. Distance no longer mattered. Let me see how much you have improved. Yi Chen didn't use the firmament sword. He held the heaven sword and swung it. Chapter 14:16. The fist power and the sword chi clashed together, creating a huge water column. The two continued to attack each other through the water column. It seemed like they would not stop until they reached their goal. My power has increased so much. Yi Chen was a bit surprised. Before his sword intent reached the 9th rank, he was already many times stronger than the first demon lord. But now that his sword intent had reached the 9th rank, he was actually on par with the first demon lord. It was not hard to imagine how much the first demon lord had improved. Yi Chen was astonished, but the first demon sovereign was even more astonished. His demon king golden body had reached the major completion, arousing the dark power in the depths of his bloodline. Not only did his dark yuan spirit break through to the high silver rank, his dark profound was also gradually transforming into the dark law, increasing his strength by countless folds. Under demigod realm, he was close to being invincible. He originally thought that Yi Chen was no longer his opponent, but reality told him that Yi Chen was not any weaker than him. Boom. 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 Time after time, the two could not do anything to each other. Sneering, Yi Chen held his sword with both of his hands and raised it up high. He then threw out a heavy sword attack. The heavy sword light sliced through the waves and reached the first demon lord in an instant. Demon King Golden Body. The first demon lord roared. His body shone with a golden light, along with black lightning. The sword light landed on the first demon lord's body, but it could not cut into his body. It only cut a little bit of his skin before disappearing. It was not the first demon lord's style to take a beating. He threw out a horrifying punch. It was the sublimation of the light and dark fist, dark chaos fist. The heaven and earth turned chaotic. Yi Chen was hit by the first demon lord's punch. This punch was actually made up of countless punches. Yi Chen could not dodge all of them. One of them landed on his chest. Clang. The fist power did not break through Yi Chen's defense like the first demon lord had expected. Instead, it bounced off. Compared to the first demon ancestor's demon king golden body, Yi Chen's peak 16th layer immortal sword body was not the slightest bit inferior. Adding the black tortoise saint armor, Yi Chen's defense was no less than the first demon ancestor's. First demon lord, I didn't expect you to improve so much. I wonder if you have a heavenly saint weapon? Yi Chen pulled out the firmament sword and slashed down angrily. It was still the heavy sword style. Catcher. A soft tearing sound rang out, and a pitch-black hole appeared in the sky above the spring of the future. With the improvement of his martial arts primordial spirit, Yi Chen could activate more of the power of the firmament sword. With his full strength, he immediately tore the space-time of the spring of the future. Of course, compared to the spring of the future, which had no beginning or end, this hole was nothing. The first demon venerable's saint artifact armor shattered all of a sudden, and cracks appeared on the surface of the demon king's golden body. Fortunately, at the critical moment, a black halo emerged from his body and blocked the sword light. Otherwise, even if the first demon venerable didn't die, his origin would be severely injured. He stared at the firmament sword in shock, and without any hesitation, he entered the black crack created by the firmament sword. Is this the law of darkness? Yi Chen frowned slightly. The first demon sovereign's speed of improvement was too fast, so fast that it made people's hair stand on end. Yi Chen's current strength was because he had developed in all aspects, but the first demon sovereign had only comprehended a trace of the law of darkness, and yet he was able to erase all of Yi Chen's advantages. One could imagine how terrifying the first demon sovereign would be once he grasped more of the law of darkness. Where there is a will, there is a way. Maybe I can try to find the entrance to the law of darkness. Only powerful demigods could comprehend the law of darkness. Yi Chen didn't know how the first demon sovereign had comprehended it. After all, even Sword Saint Bai Ji and Demon Saint Jiao Luo hadn't grasped the law of darkness. However, Yi Chen felt that he could give it a try. Hell Mountain of Time. As time flowed in reverse, a black shadow fell from the void, accompanied by a rain of blood. Wiping the blood from the corner of his mouth, the first demon sovereign pursed his lips. Yi Chen's strength was beyond his imagination. Even the first demon sovereign, who had the bloodline of a great demon king, felt extremely strained. The future spring wasn't omnipotent. The stronger one was, the less useful the future spring would be to them. As his Yuanshan advanced to the intermediate silver rank, Yi Chen discovered that his Yuanshan seemed to have developed a resistance to the future spring, and its progress was very slow. Without a choice, Yi Chen used the time and space profound to guide the law of time and space of the future spring, accelerating its flow. Only then did his Yuanshan barely manage to advance to the intermediate silver rank. However, after his Yuanshan reached the intermediate silver rank, it couldn't advance any further. It was like a pool of stagnant water. Yi Chen faintly felt that this opportunistic trick might cause his Yuanshan to be unable to break through for a very long time. After all, his foundation was too shallow, and he needed to fill up his own things. As the Yuanshan entered his body, Yi Chen began to swim in the future spring and began to comprehend the laws. Laws were higher than rules. Normally speaking, laws were inherent, while rules were formed after birth. However, as a martial artist grew stronger, there wasn't much difference between laws and rules. Since one could create rules, then one could also create laws, allowing one's will to replace the operation of heaven and earth. The first demon sovereign's dark chaos fist contained the law of darkness. Even though it was only a trace, it was still impossible for Yi Chen to dodge. If the other party's law of darkness was deep enough, they could completely annihilate Yi Chen with the law of darkness. No, the future spring only contains the law of time and space. With my current realm, I still can't comprehend the law of time or space. After an unknown period of time, Yi Chen woke up. The future spring looked like spring water, but this spring water was formed by the power of time and space. It wasn't real spring water. The entire future spring only contained the power of time and space, and nothing else. Without a medium, Yi Chen would find it hard to comprehend the laws other than the law of time and space. Right, I wonder if the firmament sword contains the law? Yi Chen suddenly had an idea. He wanted to know if the Sky Saint artifact contained the power of law. Otherwise, how could the Sky Saint artifact be so powerful that he couldn't unleash the full power of the firmament sword? His consciousness sank into the firmament sword, and Yi Chen began to search for the origin of the firmament sword. Finally, Yi Chen found a drop of water, a whirlwind, and a transparent crystal in the depths of the firmament sword. In the past, Yi Chen couldn't detect these at all. Now that his martial Dao Yuan soul had reached the advanced silver rank, Yi Chen could do it. The law of water, the law of wind, and the law of space. Yi Chen took a deep breath. There were actually 3 types of law in the origin of the firmament sword. These 3 types of law were very weak, but after combining with the origin, they formed a special characteristic. This special characteristic was the power of the firmament. The stronger the origin and the power of law, the stronger the power of the firmament. Yi Chen vaguely understood the relationship between the saint artifact and the divine stone. The divine stone contained the law of fragmentation. When the law was fragmented to a certain extent, it would decompose into profound meaning. Only by integrating enough divine stones, The Saint artifact could gradually evolve until it gave birth to the law and became a Sky Saint artifact. Chapter 14:17. Splash. The spring of the future flowed endlessly, drifting into the distance. Yi Chen sat cross-legged, drifting with the flow. On his knees was the 3-star heavenly sacred artifact, the firmament sword. As his mind sank into the firmament sword, Yi Chen seemed to have forgotten the passage of time. He carefully comprehended the 3 types of laws in the firmament sword's origin. The law of water was a water droplet, the law of wind was a whirlwind, and the law of space was a transparent crystal. The water droplet that represented the law of water looked calm, but it was turbulent inside. It was like a boundless ocean. When it was quiet, it was calm and without waves. When it was angry, it could destroy the world. The whirlwind that represented the law of wind spun endlessly. As long as Yi Chen's mind came into contact with it, it would immediately be sliced into pieces. He could not approach it at all. This caused Yi Chen to be unable to observe the whirlwind. The transparent crystal that represented the law of space was even more tyrannical. It emitted a transparent, colorless light. When Yi Chen's mind was illuminated by the colorless light, it immediately disappeared without a trace. He could not even approach it, let alone observe the transparent crystal. Yi Chen knew that among the 3 types of laws, the law of water should be the easiest to comprehend. Therefore, it was the easiest to observe. The law of wind was much more tyrannical. He could not comprehend it at this stage, let alone the law of space. After giving up on the law of wind and the law of space, Yi Chen began to fully focus on comprehending the law of water. How peaceful. As his mind observed the surface of the water droplet, Yi Chen felt that his mind was completely still. He had a feeling that he wanted to forget everything. He wanted to throw everything aside and enjoy this feeling of peace. Something's not right. Sword intent surged, and Yi Chen recovered from his state of mind as still as water. Normally, one needed to have a mind as still as water. However, when studying the law of water, one must not have one's mind as still as water. Yi Chen had a premonition that once he sank into it, he might never wake up. With vigilance, Yi Chen's mind carried a trace of sword intent. When he looked at the surface of the water droplet, Yi Chen's mind was like still water. But when he looked at the inside of the water droplet, Yi Chen's mind was abnormally lively, and it was hard to control. His thoughts were flying everywhere. Let alone comprehending it, he couldn't even control his own mind. It was so sad that he wanted to vomit blood. No wonder laws can only be comprehended by powerful demigods. But why did the first demon sovereign comprehend the law of darkness? Yi Chen frowned. The reason why powerful demigods could comprehend laws was probably because they had a gold yuan spirit. Wanting to comprehend laws with a silver yuan spirit was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. But since the first demon sovereign comprehended the law of darkness, it was enough to prove that he could comprehend laws without a gold yuan spirit. As for how the first demon sovereign comprehended it, Yi Chen didn't want to know. He had no way of knowing. How could Yi Chen know that after the first demon sovereign cultivated the demon king golden body, he stimulated the power of darkness in the depths of his bloodline? Rather than saying that the law of darkness was comprehended, it was more like it came with him. It was like the profound mysteries in the bodies of the beasts, or the trace of the law of space in Yi Chen's netherworld sacred eye. The ignorant were fearless. Yi Chen continued to comprehend the law of water. In the blink of an eye, 5,000 years passed in the outside world. Within the future spring, a thin mist appeared around Yi Chen's body. The future spring was formed from the power of space and time. Logically speaking, it couldn't contain any other power, but this mist was clearly the power of water. In Yi Chen's soul sea, waves surged. Even the 3 sword souls were affected. They joined forces to resist. Above the center of the soul sea, a water droplet was forming. 5,000 years in the outside world was countless years in the future spring. If it wasn't for Yi Chen's perfect protection of the power of space and time, he would have long died of old age. Hard work paid off. He really did comprehend a trace of the law of water. The reason why he could comprehend the law of water was largely due to the firmament sword. Otherwise, Yi Chen wouldn't have known what the law of water was. Secondly, the golden soul force also played a big role. This was the soul force of a demigod. Thirdly, the ninth step sword intent couldn't go unnoticed, especially the radiant sword intent. With the radiant sword intent in his mind, Yi Chen could observe the law of water with greater clarity. Rumble. The soul sea kept shaking. Yi Chen realized that comprehending the law in advance wasn't necessarily a good thing. His soul sea seemed to be unable to withstand the power of the law. The soul sea was directly related to the martial Dao Yuan Shen. The soul sea was also a place that contained soul force. It was equivalent to a container. This container was too fragile and could easily be damaged. Taking a deep breath, Yi Chen operated the immortal sword intent to the limit to protect his soul sea. Then, he continued to condense the water droplet. The moment before the water droplet was formed, Yi Chen's immortal sword intent collapsed. His soul sea was almost torn apart. Fortunately, the water droplet was formed, and the law power was completely restrained. After a long time, Yi Chen opened his eyes. A layer of lustrous light flashed across the surface of his eyes. I finally comprehended a trace of the law of water. I wonder how powerful the 5 elements sword art will be. Yi Chen was looking forward to it. He held the firmament sword with both hands. Whoosh! Yi Chen slashed out. 5 elements sword ART's 4th style, heavy sword. The spring of the future was torn apart. A blue sword light flashed, and water vapor filled the air. The other profoundness is suppressed. Yi Chen was a little surprised. It was clearly the heavy sword, but it didn't have the same feeling as before. The real heavy sword gave people a heavy feeling. The blue sword light just now seemed to be condensed from water, but its power was magnified by millions of times. It seems that the law and profoundness can't coexist. The law can only exist by itself. Yi Chen smiled bitterly. From now on, the 5 elements sword art was useless. The 5 elements sword art couldn't do without the water profoundness. But now, the water profoundness had become the law of water. In addition, when he used the law of water, Yi Chen's soul sea surged again. Yi Chen estimated that if he continuously used the law of water, his soul sea would definitely collapse. In the future, when he fought with his enemies, the law of water could only be used as a trump card. Of course, if he encountered an enemy below the demigod level, he could easily end the battle once he used the law of water. The only thing that could threaten Yi Chen was the demigod level. If he encountered a demigod, it was best to escape. If he couldn't finish off the opponent in a short time, he would be finished off by the opponent. It's time to leave. Tearing apart the space-time of the spring of the future, Yi Chen flew out. When he reappeared, Yi Chen appeared in hell. Without any hesitation, Yi Chen tore apart the space-time of hell again and left. 1 month later, Yi Chen returned to the 4 major star regions with life. 5,000 years have passed. I will enter the primal chaos battlefield in another 2,000 years. For the first time, Yi Chen felt a little pressed for time. After leaving this time, he didn't know when he would return. It was equivalent to saying goodbye to the people he cared about forever. Yi Chen decided to accompany his parents for the next 2,000 years. Chapter 1418. The Waterbird Planet was where the Yi family was based. With Yi Chen's current status and strength, it was not impossible for him to occupy a level 9 life planet, but there was no need for that. The Waterbird Planet was large enough for the Yi family to survive and develop. Besides, the Yi family also controlled many life planets, ranging from level 1 to level 7. It would be too greedy to occupy a level 9 life planet. In Yi Chen's eyes, the Waterbird Planet was the most suitable life planet for the Yi family. He planned to set up many traps on the Waterbird Planet. He believed that these traps would allow the Yi family to prosper for hundreds of thousands or even millions of years. As for the distant future, Yi Chen did not think too much about it. On the Waterbird Planet, more than 80% was oceans and lakes. Only 10% was land. There were a total of 36 continents and countless islands. To the east of the main continent, the Waterbird continent, was a beautiful island. It had a white beach, azure seawater, and a light blue sky. Everything was so beautiful. However, if a paragon was here, he would definitely notice that this island was separated from the outside world. It looked like it was in the same world, but it actually contained different laws. The law of water is broad and profound. Just a trace of it has the power to change the world. It is truly awe-inspiring. After returning from the spring of the future, Yi Chen began to study the magical uses of the law of water. This island was where he experimented. After hundreds of years, he had already gained some experience in using the law of water. The Wilds continent contains the law of the Wilds god. I wonder what realm it is. The stronger he was, the more Yi Chen felt the gap between him and a true god. A true god did not control ordinary laws, but the law of God. With Yi Chen's current realm, he could not understand what a law of God was at all. It was just like how ants could not understand the thoughts of humans. Standing in a different position, the perspective of things was also different. This was the biggest difference between a mortal and a true god. He opened his right hand, and a water ball suddenly formed. It was very sudden. It was as if the water ball had always been in Yi Chen's hand. It was just that the invisibility state had been removed. He clenched his fist lightly, and the water ball began to tremble. Correspondingly, the entire waterbird planet also began to tremble subtly. Ripples appeared on the boundless ocean, and in the center of the ocean, the monstrous waves even touched the atmosphere, emitting a power that could destroy the world. Whoosh! The water ball dissipated, and the waterbird star returned to normal in an instant, as if what had happened before was just an illusion. So scary. What just happened? On the waterbird planet, some of the experts still had lingering fears. There's no need to make a fuss. It must be sword venerable green lotus cultivating. Similar situations have been happening in the past few hundred years. Oh, I see. You scared me. Knowing the reason, those who did not know immediately heaved a sigh of relief. Since sword venerable green lotus was cultivating, they did not think that there would be any danger staying on the waterbird planet. After all, sword venerable green lotus's family was also on the waterbird planet. The waterbird star has the most water, so it's most beneficial to my water laws. After grasping a trace of the water laws, Yi Chen could control most of the things in the world that were related to water. If the enemy's martial arts contained the profoundness of water, then he would not even be able to unleash the complete martial arts. It was just like how Yi Chen could not unleash the complete 5-element sword technique. In front of the water laws, the profoundness of water did not need to exist at all. Of course, there were also water that Yi Chen could not control, such as the Heavenly River's water. The Heavenly River contained the Heavenly River laws, which were equivalent to the Wilderness God laws. His own water laws were not enough. Swoosh! The water rippled, and Yi Chen disappeared without a trace. When he reappeared, Yi Chen had arrived in the desolate starry sky outside the 4 major life zones. After comprehending a trace of the water laws, Yi Chen naturally wanted to create a sword technique with the water laws as the core. After a few hundred years, he had already made some progress. Standing quietly in the starry sky, Yi Chen closed his eyes. Whoosh! With Yi Chen as the center, an endless stream of water was born, drowning a large part of the starry sky. Billowing sword. His eyes suddenly opened, and Yi Chen pointed his sword finger forward. An extremely terrifying scene happened. The endless stream of water, along with a large number of planets, turned into a huge sword. Wherever the huge sword passed, space-time shattered, and everything was destroyed. In the past, Yi Chen's defense was stronger than his attack, but now, Yi Chen's attack was stronger than his defense, and he had also reached the level of an elementary demigod. Feeling an intense pain in his head, Yi Chen hurriedly withdrew the water laws. This time, the duration of the water laws had been used up, and if he continued to activate the water laws, his soul sea would not be able to withstand it. After several hundred years of experiments, Yi Chen had tested some useful data. When activating the water laws at full force, he could roughly maintain it for 15 minutes, and after that, he would have to rest for a week. In other words, he could only activate the water laws for 15 minutes in a week. Of course, if he activated it separately, the total duration would not be just 15 minutes. For example, if he activated it for a short period of time this time, it would not cause any harm to his soul sea, and the next time he activated it, he could still activate it for 15 minutes. If he used the time reasonably, the restriction would not be too great, and he could activate it for a short period of time every day. The Yi clan had always been very lively, and all the direct descendants lived here. Due to the huge population, the entire clan had slowly expanded into a huge city, which was divided into 3 regions: the central city, the inner city, and the outer city. Each region was unbelievably huge, and there were plains, lakes, mountains, and everything else that should be there. In the central city, in a garden that looked like a sea of flowers, Yi Chen was playing with a group of children. "Grandpa, play with me. Grandpa, when are you going to teach me sword arts? I'm already 5 years old." Grandpa, dozens of children surrounded Yi Chen, either asking for hugs or acting coquettishly, causing Yi Chen to be extremely busy. If there were outsiders here, they would definitely suspect that their eyes were playing tricks on them. The mighty sword Venerable Green Lotus also had times when he was in a difficult situation. "Everyone has already grown up. I wonder when I will have my own children." Yi Chen had a big smile on his face. Some of these children were the descendants of his younger brothers and sisters, some were the descendants of his disciples, and some were the descendants of his friends, such as Luo Hanshan and Zhong Haoren. He was the only one who didn't have any children yet, not to mention descendants. At this moment, Yi Chen felt that time had passed very quickly. In a pavilion far away, Yi Tianhao and Shen Yuqing were smilingly looking at their son playing with the children. Next to them were Yi Xiaoxiao, Yi Xian, Xu Jing, and Murong Qingcheng. The whole family was here. Yi Tianhao and Shen Yuqing glanced at each other, unable to hide the happiness in their eyes. Indeed, they thought that they were the happiest people in the world. They had many children and grandchildren, and they could see even more children and grandchildren being born. Compared to the lifespan of ordinary people, they could live for 100,000 years. Even if they died after 100,000 years, they would have no regrets. After all, they had lived long enough. Chapter 14:19. The Spring of the Past was easy to obtain, but the Stone of 3 Lives was hard to come by. The Spring of the Past and the Spring of the Future were both directly connected to the Mountain of Time. The difference was that the Spring of the Future could only be seen by accelerating the flow of time in the Mountain of Time, while the Spring of the Past could only be seen by reversing the flow of time in the Mountain of Time. At the risk of being hunted down by 9 Yin ghostly sage, Yi Chen obtained the Spring of the Past. The Spring of the Past was in essence a special power of time and space. To ordinary supremes, it was undoubtedly a poison. Only Yi Chen, who had perfected the space ultimacy, dared to touch it. To restore Red Lotus Ghostly Lord's memories, the Spring of the Past alone was not enough. The Stone of 3 Lives was the most important. Yi Chen had once negotiated with Phoenix Ghostly Sage, hoping to trade for the Stone of 3 Lives, but the other party had rejected him outright, and even destroyed one of his projections as a warning. Later, Yi Chen found out that the Stone of 3 Lives was more precious than he had imagined. It was a divine object that could only be encountered by chance. In this way, Yi Chen suddenly had no other way. Relying on martial power, he was simply not Hell Ghost Sage's opponent. Not to mention him, even White Extreme Sword Saint and Demon Saint Gallo would not dare to be arrogant in Hell, as they would be in danger of being chased down at every turn. "Forget it, this is beyond my ability." Yi Chen shook his head and began to consider another matter. Xu Jing's martial path primordial spirit had successfully entered the bronze level, and was qualified to enter the chaos battlefield. Murong Qingcheng's martial path primordial spirit was a little special, and required a type of darkness crystal to break through, which could only be found in the demon's domain. Of course, some unknown secret realms of darkness should also have them, such as the dark galaxy that Yi Chen had once entered. However, these places could not be found easily. It depended on luck. Yi Chen planned to enter the demon's domain alone. Although there was a high chance of encountering Devil Sage Kala, he reckoned that even if he could not defeat the other party, he should be able to escape successfully. Demon's Domain, Maelstrom Mystic Realm. The Maelstrom mystic realm was one of the top 5 supreme mystic realms in the demon realm. Only those with the strength of a powerful supreme being could enter it. If ordinary supreme beings entered, the death rate would be as high as 10%. 10,000 years ago, an ordinary supreme being died in the Maelstrom mystic realm. On this day, an uninvited guest came to the mystic Maelstrom. Quite a strong pressure. As soon as he entered the secret dimension, Yi Chen immediately felt a powerful force pressing down on him. He was unable to shake it off. Thankfully, the effect was not too great. In the center of the secret realm was a huge whirlpool. This whirlpool seemed to have been blessed by divine power and could exist eternally. The darkness divine crystals came from this whirlpool. Every once in a while, it would spit out a certain amount of darkness divine crystals. Sometimes there would be more, sometimes there would be less. The interval between the time was also long and short. Not all of the darkness divine crystals that were spat out could be found. If no one found them in a short period of time, they would fuse with other objects, making it even harder to find. It's a human supreme being. He actually dares to run into the demon domain. He's really courting death. In the Maelstrom secret realm, 2 powerful supreme demons discovered Yi Chen, and one of them wanted to kill him. Are you crazy? That's Sword Sovereign Green Lotus. Run. The other supreme demons hurriedly pulled his friend away. Outside the Maelstrom secret realm, the 2 supreme demons still had lingering fears. How could they have imagined that Yi Chen would come to the demon domain? This was simply impossible. I almost died just now. The supreme demon who wanted to kill Yi Chen turned pale. If he had not been pulled away, he would definitely have rushed forward. Once he angered Yi Chen, he would have been killed with a single strike. Let's go and tell Lord Demon Saint that no matter how strong Sword Sovereign Green Lotus is, he is no match for Lord Demon Saint. That's right. It's precisely because of Sword Sovereign Green Lotus that we demons have been suppressed by the humans. We have suffered countless losses over the years. Since he dares to come to the demon domain, let's make sure he doesn't return. The 2 of them hurried to the area where Demon Saint Goro was. The humans had a sun, and so did the demons. However, the demon's sun was black. When it shone on the planet, it was dim, but not completely invisible. It was as if they had come to another world. Demon Saint Goro was a loner, so he didn't need to occupy a level 9 planet. Instead, he built a dark golden palace on a level 5 planet. The palace was huge, and there were no less than 10,000 palaces of various sizes. The entire planet was protected by a powerful dark force. Even a legendary supreme would find it difficult to break into this planet, let alone destroy it. What do you want? Before the 2 supreme demons got close to the planet, Demon Saint Goro's voice was already heard. One of them said respectfully, Lord Demon Saint, we found Sword Sovereign Green Lotus in the Maelstrom secret realm. We are here to report. Sword Sovereign Green Lotus? Demon Saint Goro was surprised. Is Sword Sovereign White Pole here? We didn't see Sword Sovereign White Pole. He shouldn't be here. The 2 of them were a little hesitant. If Sword Sovereign White Pole was hiding near Yi Chen, how could they find him? However, they thought that Sword Sovereign White Pole would not be so bored. In the palace, Demon Sage Gara frowned. In the entire universe, no one was a match for him other than the White Pole Sword Sage. The only one he was wary of was the White Pole Sword Sage. If the White Pole Sword Sage was not around, a mere Green Lotus Sword Sage would be nothing. Could this be a trap? Demon Saint Goro thought. Haha. Suddenly, Demon Saint Goro laughed. He felt that he was too cautious. So what if Sword Sovereign White Pole was here? Could one Sword Sovereign White Pole and Sword Sovereign Green Lotus defeat him? It was not an exaggeration to say that even 2 Sword Sovereigns would not be able to stop him. At most, he could only escape. Good, you 2 have done well. In the palace, Demon Saint Goro's figure disappeared instantly. Crackle. With a wave of Yi Chen's hand, a large number of miscellaneous items exploded. This kind of explosion was from the outside to the inside. Once a darkness divine crystal appeared, Yi Chen would immediately control the power. There were many meteorites near the whirlpool. Every time Yi Chen waved his hand, he could destroy hundreds of millions of meteorites. If he used it without restraint, the area of destruction could be even larger. However, there would inevitably be a deviation in the control of the power. If he was not careful, he might destroy the darkness divine crystal that he had spent so much effort to find. Found one. Yi Chen was very efficient. Soon, he found a darkness divine crystal. However, it was not enough. The more, the better. All of a sudden, Yi Chen sensed a wave of extremely powerful dark power approaching. Demon Saint Goro. Yi Chen looked into the depths of the space-time. In the entire demon realm, only Demon Saint Goro had such a powerful power. As expected, when Yi Chen found Demon Saint Goro also found him. Don't even think about escaping. Demon Saint Goro formed a seal with both hands and sealed the entire whirlpool. With his demigod power, he could totally do that. Why should I escape? Yi Chen sneered. He had been waiting for this day for a long time. He had long wanted to see the power of a beginner demigod. After all, he would meet more demigods in the battlefield of chaos. It was very important to know the power of a beginner demigod as soon as possible. Chapter 1420. After sealing off the secret realm, Demon Saint Goro's demonic energy burst forth. Clusters of black bubbles spread out endlessly. In the blink of an eye, everything within a radius of hundreds of thousands of miles was covered by these black bubbles. It was like a dream. The ninth realm, demonic bubble realm. Yi Chen's pupils shrank. How could he not see that Demon Saint Gallo's realm was extremely rare? Every black bubble was like a world. Countless worlds were squeezing over. Even a beginner demigod would have to avoid it temporarily and could only resist it with the realm of the same level. But Yi Chen was not a beginner demigod. Not daring to waste any time, Yi Chen operated his sword energy with all his might. In the next second, a huge green lotus appeared out of nowhere. With Yi Chen as the nourishment, it expanded crazily. Thousands of miles, tens of thousands of miles, hundreds of thousands of miles. When the green lotus expanded to hundreds of thousands of miles, Demon Saint Gallo's demonic bubble realm had already covered over, and the two clashed. Boom! For a moment, the sun and the moon dimmed, and the sky changed color. The entire secret realm was shaking. What a powerful force! Yi Chen was blown away. In terms of realm, the Green Lotus Sword realm was no weaker than the demonic bubble realm. However, it depended on who was using it. Yi Chen's Yuanshan was at the advanced silver level, while Demon Saint Gallo's Yuanshan was at the gold level. There was a difference of one level between the two. Therefore, the ninth realm that Gallo had used was naturally more powerful than the Green Lotus Sword realm. Hey! What's going on? Demon Saint Gallo's brows creased. His demonic bubble domain was extremely tyrannical. Once it broke through the opponent's domain, it would immediately explode on the opponent's body. Each black bubble was equivalent to a super bomb. Under the continuous explosions, no demigod would be able to withstand it. However, Yi Chen didn't seem to be injured at all, not to mention dying. Heavenly Saint Armor. Suddenly, Demon Saint Gallo's eyes brightened. Two beams of light shot at Yi Chen's body. He could feel the ripples of a Heavenly Saint weapon on Yi Chen's body. Thinking about it carefully, only a Heavenly Saint armor could help him defend against a demigod's attack. If it were someone else, there would be nothing left of them. Sword Venerable Green Lotus, hand over the Heavenly Saint artifact armor, and I can let you go. Demon Saint Gallo's heart was burning with passion. As long as he could get his hands on the Heavenly Saint armor, he would be able to suppress Sword Saint Baiji. Most importantly, he would be entering the chaotic battlefield in a little over 1,000 years. A Heavenly Saint armor would be of great help to him as it would allow him to defeat any beginner demigods. Demon Saint Gallo, do you think you can defeat me? Stabilizing his body, Yi Chen said. Hearing that, Demon Saint Gallo was stunned for a moment before he burst into laughter. He did not know whether he should call Yi Chen arrogant or naive. Yi Chen actually said that he, a primary demigod, could not do anything to him. This is the funniest joke I've ever heard. Fine, I'll let you know that the gap between us is not something that a mere heavenly saint weapon armor can offset. Although Yi Chen had withstood the impact of his domain, it was not his strongest attack. It could only be considered an ordinary attack. Dark Blood Claw. Without any warning, Demon Saint Gallow's palm passed through time and space. When it reappeared, it had turned into a black and red claw radiance, grabbing at Yi Chen. Everything within a radius of hundreds of thousands of miles was within the attack range of the claw radiance. So fast. Yi Chen thought that his reaction was fast enough. The golden soul gave him the reflexes of a demigod, but his body could not keep up. He was a fraction slower and could not dodge in time. Yi Chen crossed his arms in front of his body. Clang, the next moment, blood-red sparks flew everywhere. Yi Chen's whole body was drowned in the blood-red sparks as he was shot out. He did not stop until he crashed into a continent millions of miles behind him, causing it to crumble. Impossible. With a wave of his claw, Demon Saint Gallow already knew the result. Apart from sending Yi Chen flying, this claw did not hurt him at all. He could not believe this. One had to know that the Dark Blood Claw was one of his ultimate arts. When he used it as a beginner demigod, no one below the level of demigod could block it. Could the Sky Saint tool armor really be so powerful that it could even block the attack of a beginner demigod? Of course, he did not know that Yi Chen had also cultivated the Immortal sword body. Together with the Xian Wu Saint armor, most beginner demigods could not hurt Yi Chen. Amidst the dust, Yi Chen raised his head. A red light flashed in his right eye, and a blood-red sword shadow shot out toward Demon Saint Gallow. It was a soul and will attack secret technique, Sword of Hell. Demon Saint Gallow did not manage to dodge it, and the blood-red sword shadow invaded his sea of soul. For a split second, Demon Saint Gallow felt dizzy. The scene before his eyes blurred, and even Yi Chen's figure became millions of times. Of course, it was only for a split second. In the next moment, Demon Saint Gallow returned to normal. As expected, the Sword of Hell can only stun beginner demigods for a split second. Yi Chen treated Demon Saint Gallow as a test subject. He would know the power of the Sword of Hell once he tried it on Demon Saint Gallow. The effect was not great, but it was not bad either. At least it could stun his opponent for a split second, which was better than nothing at all. In the future, when he encountered beginner demigods in the Chaos battlefield, it would be of some use. Damn it. Demon Saint Gallow, who had come back to his senses, snorted angrily. A black crow flew out from between his eyebrows and entered Yi Chen's Sea of Soul. Soul and Will secret technique, Black Crow of Obliteration. If it was Yi Chen in the past, this Black Crow of Obliteration would have given Yi Chen some trouble. In terms of power, the Black Crow of Obliteration was no weaker than the Sword of Hell. Although the Sword of Hell contained Golden Soul Power, Destruction Sword Will, and Hell's Will, the Black Crow of Obliteration lacked Hell's Will. However, the one who cast the Black Crow of Obliteration was Demon Saint Gallow. Demon Saint Gallow's martial primordial spirit was at the gold level, so his control was more exquisite, and his attack was purer. As soon as the Black Crow of Obliteration entered Yi Chen's Sea of Soul, it exploded and turned into countless black crows flying everywhere. If it was someone else, their Sea of Soul would definitely not be able to withstand it. However, in Yi Chen's Sea of Soul, apart from the 3 great sword souls, there was also a drop of Rule of Water. This drop of Rule of Water only released some rule power, and the countless black crows were instantly turned into ashes, vanishing into thin air like phantoms. Demon Saint Gallow, I have a sword. Please take a look. Yi Chen did not plan to hide his strength. With his current strength, there was no need for him to hide his strength. The firmament sword was unsheathed, and the Rule of Water in his Sea of Soul rippled. Yi Chen swung the sword. Sword art of the Rule of Water, Sword of Waves. Rumble. The entire secret realm of the whirlpool shook violently, and endless waves surged toward Demon Saint Gallow. In the next moment, the waves turned into a blue sword light, slashing out angrily. Oh no! Demon Saint Gallow felt a hint of danger. He had a strong premonition that if he allowed the blue sword light to slash his body, he would definitely be injured, and even his origin would be damaged. This sword had already posed a threat to his life. His right arm lengthened and extended crazily, and his right hand continued to expand until it was hundreds of thousands of miles long. His right hand, which was covered in black and red light, grabbed the blue sword light, and the two collided. Chapter 1421. Outside the secret whirlpool realm, some supreme demons who had received the news rushed over and were communicating with each other. This Green Lotus swordsman is too arrogant. Humph, let's see how he can escape this time. The one who spoke was the legendary supreme demons, Giant Demon Venerable. Giant Demon Venerable had been very sullen for the past 20,000 years. He had been taught a lesson by Yi Chen and the first Demon Venerable, especially that time when he was taught a lesson by Yi Chen, he had almost lost his life. If it wasn't for Yi Chen's projection doppelganger, if it wasn't for Demon Saint Gallo destroying his projection doppelganger, he would have been dead for sure. This made him hate Yi Chen very much. However, with his strength, it was impossible for him to take revenge. Demon Saint Gallo, no one can save him. Sky Demon Sovereign inwardly nodded. To this day, he was not even the third head of the demon clan. Giant Demon Sovereign and First Demon Sovereign were already ahead of him. Seeing that Yi Chen, who used to be like an ant in his eyes, had already become an existence that he had to look up to, he couldn't help but feel somewhat envious. More and more supreme demons arrived, including the first Demon Venerable. Among them, only he had fought with Yi Chen, so he was the one who understood Yi Chen the most. However, when he knew that Demon Saint Gallo was going to fight with Yi Chen personally, he couldn't help but frown. Yi Chen was definitely the strongest opponent he had ever had in his life. He had never really suppressed him before, but he had been suppressed by him until now. Unfortunately, a Supreme Demon Venerable was a Supreme Demon Venerable after all. It was not easy for him to fight against a primary demigod. Boom, boom, boom. The huge secret whirlpool realm started to shake slightly. Even the people outside the secret whirlpool realm could feel it, which shocked them. The secret whirlpool realm was so huge that if a normal Supreme Demon Venerable didn't know the way, they could easily get lost in it. Even a powerful Supreme Demon Venerable would need 3 to 5 years to pass through the secret whirlpool realm. What made the secret whirlpool realm shake? In their opinion, Demon Saint Gallo should be able to recruit Yi Chen without any resistance. In the center of the secret realm, a huge blue-red light ball that was thousands of miles in size was born. In the next moment, the blue-red light ball expanded crazily, from thousands of miles in size to tens of millions of miles in size, and it was still expanding, as if it was going to devour everything and destroy the entire secret realm. As for Yi Chen and Demon Saint Gallo, they had long been devoured by the blue-red light ball. When the blue-red light ball expanded to hundreds of millions of miles, it finally exploded. The violent shockwave tore the space apart, and the dreadful blue-red energy leaked out through the space-time crack. What is this? Outside the secret realm, the supremes of the demons felt a strong tremor. All of a sudden, they saw countless beams of blue and red light shooting out from the secret realm. The entire secret realm was like a broken crystal filled with light, or a giant shining hedgehog, lighting up half of the demonic realm. So many darkness divine gems. Inside the whirlpool secret realm, Yi Chen's eyes brightened. The explosion of the blue-red light sphere had flattened everything within his line of sight, causing darkness god crystals to appear everywhere. However, the might of the blue-red light sphere was too great, and the majority of the darkness god crystals had been destroyed. Only 1% of the darkness god crystals had survived due to their proximity to the secret realm. Bearing the impact of the remaining energy, Yi Chen started to collect the darkness divine gems. With the Xianwu sacred armor, he seemed to have it easier than Demon Saint Gallo, but Yi Chen knew very well that although his defense was better than Demon Saint Gallo's, if the battle continued, he would definitely lose. First of all, the inability to use the water rule was a big problem. The water rule, yes, that was indeed the fluctuation of the water rule. What is going on? A Supremes can actually comprehend the water rule? This is something that most high-level demigods can't do. Demon Saint Gallo was dumbfounded. It was unbelievable. Even he couldn't comprehend the power of the rule, but Yi Chen did. He is just a Supremes. He can't endure the power of the rule for a long time. Demon Saint Gallo was a demigod after all, so he reacted quickly. Sword Lord Green Lotus, die. Demon Saint Gallo formed a seal with both hands, and a dark red cage fell from the sky, trapping Yi Chen inside. Supreme Martial Art, Dark Blood Cage. This move didn't have much power, and it was used to trap enemies. Even a low-level demigod wouldn't be able to escape in a short time. World Wonder. Yi Chen frowned and quickly performed the space-time movement skill, trying to escape from the dark blood cage. However, what surprised him was that the World Wonder, which had always been successful, didn't work. He seemed to be trapped in an invisible spiderweb, unable to leave the dark blood cage through space-time. Instead, he was trapped deeper and deeper, unable to get out. Humph, if this move of mine was so easy to break, I wouldn't have used it. Unless you can comprehend the power of the space rule, you won't be able to leave through space-time. Demon Saint Gallo was very confident in the dark blood cage. The space-time in the dark blood cage was broken, and breaking through space-time was even more difficult than breaking through the cage. Moreover, he already knew that Yi Chen's space and time ultimacy had reached perfection. How could he make such a mistake? As long as he could trap Yi Chen, he would be able to defeat him slowly. Amazing. It's also a supreme martial art, but when a low-level demigod uses it, it's flawless. Yi Chen praised in his heart. But it's far from enough to make me surrender. Yi Chen laughed, and his whole body suddenly turned into a water man. The next moment, the water man dashed to the edge of the dark blood cage. As if he was going through a wall, he passed through the dark blood cage and appeared outside. Law of Water Martial Art, Water Travel Art. After comprehending the water law, Yi Chen could borrow the water law of the heaven and earth to appear anywhere. Nothing could stop him, unless the opponent had also comprehended the power of law. This was the perverse aspect of the power of law, it had the ability to surpass everything else. Demon Saint Gallo, see you later. After escaping from the dark blood cage, Yi Chen didn't remove the waterman form. With a flash, he disappeared without a trace. Demon Saint Gallo's seal seemed so laughable. This kid has grown. Forget it. Demon Saint Gallo was disappointed. He knew that from now on, he couldn't do anything to Yi Chen. Yi Chen's research on the law of water was not shallow, and he had even created the water travel art. Although he was a demigod, as long as he didn't comprehend the power of law, he couldn't do anything to the water travel art. Of course, if he reached the mid-level demigod level, he might have a chance. After removing the seal, Demon Saint Gallo came out of the Whirlpool secret realm. Lord, Sword Venerable Green Lotus, the Supreme's demons didn't know what happened inside, so Sky Demon Venerable asked. Demon Saint Gallo waved his hand. From now on, don't provoke Sword Venerable Green Lotus, or you'll have to bear the consequences. After saying that, Demon Saint Gallo disappeared in front of everyone. Don't provoke Sword Venerable Green Lotus. Everyone looked at each other. Obviously, Demon Saint Gallo couldn't do anything to Yi Chen, and Yi Chen escaped. Chapter 1422. Time flew by, and the last 2,000 years had passed. The Chaos Battlefield was about to open. Take care. After bidding farewell to his family, Yi Chen, Murong Qingcheng, and Xu Jing left Waterbird Planet instantly. When they appeared again, they were in the vast starry sky. This starry sky was said to be the center of the entire universe. The human race, demons, evil spirit race, giant race, and other major races lived around this starry sky. Many supremes had arrived. Some of them nodded in greeting when they saw Yi Chen. Sword Venerable Green Lotus' reputation had reached its peak after Yi Chen fought with Demon Sage Gallows and escaped unscathed. Basically, everyone had already regarded Yi Chen as a demigod. All my efforts have not been in vain. With a flash of blade light, Du Guju appeared near Yi Chen. As the Chaos Battlefield was about to open, Du Guju's emotions began to surge. The universe was still too small for him. He needed a more intense environment to train himself, and the Chaos Battlefield was undoubtedly the most suitable place. There were elites from various universes there, and experts emerged endlessly. It was unlike the universe, where there were only so many supremes. Unless there was a war, they might not be able to fight to their heart's content even after thousands or tens of thousands of years. Yang Qingxian and Dantai Mingyu had also come. With Yi Chen's help, the three of them had condensed the bronze martial path Yuan soul very early. After all, they all came from the same world, and it was good to help as much as possible. Besides the help in experience, Yi Chen had also given them some sage artifacts, all of which were 7-star and above Earth Sage artifacts. With these Earth Sage artifacts, their strength had improved qualitatively. After a few days, all the Supremes who could come had arrived. Demon Sage Gallows and Sword Sage Baiji also appeared one after another. Little friend Green Lotus. Sword Sage Baiji greeted Yi Chen. Sword Sage. Yi Chen smiled and nodded. Ever since Yi Chen had displayed heaven-defying strength, Sword Saint Baiji no longer saw Yi Chen as a junior but as a peer. At their level, it was easy for them to live for millions of years. Age did not mean much to them. Yi Chen, some of the Supremes seem very unfamiliar. Xu Jing swept her gaze around and said. Murong Qingcheng nodded and continued, I don't know where that red-haired old monster came from. There isn't a single supreme martial artist around him, so he probably doesn't interact much with people. Yi Chen said, there are many places in the universe that we haven't discovered yet. For example, few people go to the edge of the universe. It's normal for some unfamiliar paragons to appear there. If one did not personally experience it, who would know that there was a wilderness god continent in the starry sky of the universe? The number of sovereigns there was thousands of times more than the number of sovereigns in the outside world. No one would be able to imagine such a thing. Thus, Yi Chen was not surprised by the appearance of unfamiliar sovereigns. On the contrary, he felt that it was only natural. On the 5th day, rumble, the vast starry sky trembled. Endless chaotic light erupted, lasting for a full 10 minutes before gradually fading away. Everyone focused their eyes and saw a majestic gate appear in the distance. This gate seemed both real and illusory, and the gate was tightly shut. The gate of chaos has appeared, everyone exclaimed. Then, they held their breaths and waited for the gate of chaos to open. Creak. Finally, the gate of chaos opened with a boom. Endless gentle light gushed out and enveloped everyone. The next moment, be it ordinary sovereigns or legendary sovereigns, or even Demon Saint Baiji or Sword Saint Baiji, they were all sucked in by a mysterious power. They had no ability to resist at all. Yi Chen held Xu Jing and Murong Qingqing's hands tightly. The three of them disappeared into the gate of chaos. After everyone had been sucked in, the gate of chaos did not disappear. Instead, it shot out beams of light. In a short while, more than 10 figures were sucked in. Bastard, I don't want to go in. Damn it, I've already sealed myself, but it's still useless. Following the curses, the gate of chaos closed and rapidly dimmed. In the next 100,000 years, the strongest battle strength in the entire universe would be at the level of sovereigns. Moreover, the number of sovereigns would decrease by more than half. The originally unimportant 8th layer life and death heavenly sovereigns would become important from now on. After all, sovereigns were born from 8th layer life and death heavenly sovereigns. Once a race had one more sovereign, its overall strength would soar. This is the primal chaos battlefield. After Yi Chen woke up, he discovered that Xu Jing and Murong Qingcheng were not by his side. He seemed to be on an uninhabited island, because he could hear the sound of ocean waves in the distance. What a powerful binding force! Yi Chen's expression suddenly changed. He sensed a peculiar law, one that was completely different from the laws of the universe. Under the binding of this formidable law, his every movement was suppressed. This feeling was similar to the Huangshan continent. No, the binding force was even stronger than the Huangshan continent. It should be the primal chaos law. Yi Chen had obtained a lot of information regarding the primal chaos battlefield from Sword Saint White Pole. For example, the entire primal chaos battlefield was covered by the primal chaos law. This kind of law power was supreme, and even true gods couldn't interfere with it. In the primal chaos battlefield, profound power was extremely weak, and only law power could display its might. For example, by relying on perfect spacetime profound, Yi Chen could freely shuttle through the universe. However, on this uninhabited island, Yi Chen couldn't shuttle through spacetime at all. Without using the water law and the heavenly saint weapon, firmament sword, he could only cleave 4 or 5 trees in half, which was equivalent to turning a Superman into an ordinary person. Fortunately, I comprehended the water law in advance. Yi Chen was somewhat glad. The primal chaos battlefield was even more frightening than he had imagined. Without using law power and a heavenly saint weapon, he simply couldn't destroy anything. As a dignified legendary sovereign, he could only chop down 4 or 5 trees. Extending his left hand, Yi Chen condensed a ball of water and threw it to the ground not far away. Rumble. 100-meter wide and 10-meter deep pit appeared. A powerful shockwave radiated in all directions, blowing Yi Chen up. As for the surrounding trees, they were uprooted. It was as if a gale had passed through, leaving not a single blade of grass behind. Stumbling and landing on the ground, Yi Chen nodded in satisfaction. The power of law was still very powerful. Xu Jing and Murong Qingcheng both have heavenly saint weapons. They shouldn't be in any danger for the time being. It was actually a good thing that the primal chaos battlefield had a powerful binding force. With the strength of Xu Jing and Murong Qingcheng, they were undoubtedly the weakest group in the primal chaos battlefield. However, in a situation where their strength was limitlessly bound, whether they had heavenly saint weapons or not was very important. After all, heavenly saint weapons contained the power of law, and the power of law in the primal chaos battlefield could unleash relatively terrifying might. Caw. Suddenly, a bird's cry came from the sky. Yi Chen looked up and couldn't help but squint his eyes. It was a giant bird of unknown size. When it flew over the deserted island, its shadow shrouded almost half of the deserted island. Most importantly, Yi Chen felt a strong sense of threat from this giant bird. This proved that it could kill him. Chapter 1423. It's at least a level 7 chaos creature, Yi Chen thought to himself. Chaos creatures were creatures that evolved naturally in the chaos battlefield. According to their combat strength, they were divided into levels 1 to 10. Level 1 chaos creatures were the weakest and smallest, such as chaos ants, chaos flying insects, and chaos beetles. Level 2 chaos creatures were a level higher in both size and strength, such as chaos birds and chaos rats. Level 3 chaos creatures were a level higher than chaos wildcats and chaos water snakes, whose combat strength was equivalent to a supreme. Level 4 chaos creatures were equivalent to a legendary supreme, such as chaos wolves, chaos leopards, chaos tigers, and chaos sharks. Level 5 chaos creatures were equivalent to a demigod, such as chaos earth dragons, chaos pythons, and chaos whales. Level 6 chaos creatures had a leap in strength. If level 4 chaos creatures joined forces, they might be able to kill level 5 chaos creatures, but level 5 chaos creatures would never be able to kill level 6 chaos creatures. Level 6 chaos creatures were chaos flying dragons, chaos two-headed birds, and chaos tyrannosauruses, whose combat strength was equivalent to an elementary demigod. Level 7 chaos creatures were huge and could instantly kill level 6 chaos creatures in terms of size and strength. According to the bird's size and aura, it was at least a level 7 chaos lifeform. Outsiders wouldn't be able to contend against it. It could be said that chaos lifeforms were the natives of the chaos battlefield. They ruled this world, and the outsiders had to find a better way to survive. Amidst the howling wind, the giant bird flew over the deserted island, not noticing Yi Chen at all. The deserted island was huge and overgrown with weeds. Yi Chen searched the island several times but didn't see a single person. Instead, chaos creatures were all over the island, which gave Yi Chen a lot of trouble. If only Sky Splitter was here. Yi Chen sighed. Beasts couldn't enter the chaos battlefield. Sky Splitter, the king of bear dogs, was left in the universe by Yi Chen. Yi Chen only asked it to help the Yi family at a critical moment and didn't ask it to protect the Yi family for a lifetime. That would be too lonely, and it wasn't necessary. He believed that the vastness of the universe was enough for it to adventure for a lifetime. The reason why he thought of Sky Splitter was that the Chaos battlefield was special. Profound meanings weren't of much use here, and only primitive abilities were useful. In this aspect, Yi Chen was far from Sky Splitter. Gu. His stomach growled. Yi Chen smiled bitterly. The primal Chaos battlefield was very similar to the desolate God continent. Of course, there were still some differences between the wilderness God continent and the primal Chaos battlefield. If one did not eat meat on the wilderness God continent, their strength would decline. In other words, as long as their strength did not decline to the limit, they could actually not eat. However, the primal Chaos battlefield was different. It would make you feel hungry, and if you did not eat, you would not have the energy to do anything. After killing a level 4 Chaos wild boar, Yi Chen started a fire. Kai. A spark appeared on his finger, but it was quickly extinguished. Yi Chen shook his head, a little speechless. The profound of fire couldn't even start a fire. It was easy to imagine how weak the profound of fire was in this place. Left with no choice, Yi Chen began to use the most primitive method to start a fire, drilling wood to make fire. After a while, a flame rose and lit the bonfire. After filling his stomach, Yi Chen continued on his way. He wanted to go to the edge of the island and then build a raft to leave this deserted island. Following the stream, Yi Chen arrived at the seaside without any mishaps. Looking up, he could not see the end of the vast sea. It was boundless, and the waves were surging. Because it could not fly, the puppet battleship was too fragile. Hence, Yi Chen had to build a raft that was sturdy enough. Yi Chen discovered that there was a kind of light yellow tree on the deserted island that was very suitable for building rafts. This kind of tree was not only several times lighter than other trees, but it was also abnormally hard and tenacious. It could withstand a lot of pressure. After spending 4 hours, a 10-meter-long, 5-meter-wide raft appeared on the beach. The raft had 2 simple cabins and an animal skin sail. After pushing the raft into the water, Yi Chen jumped in. In the blink of an eye, Yi Chen drifted on the sea for 3 days. Rumble. On this day, the raft started to shake violently, as if something was hitting the raft from below. Walking out of the cabin, Yi Chen stood on the side of the raft and glanced into the water. There was a 4-meter-long shadow swimming back and forth, its body tall and powerful. Chaos Grey Shark. Yi Chen's brows creased. The Chaos Grey Shark was a rank 4 Chaos creature with the battle power of a legend rank supreme. Just now, it was only a probing attack. If it were to get serious, the raft would definitely fall apart. Although he still had 3 rafts in his storage ring, there were too many dangers in the ocean. Using one would be one less. Naturally, Yi Chen had to save them. Without any hesitation, Yi Chen jumped into the water. The binding power of the Chaos battlefield was too strong. Without using the water rule and the sky sword, Yi Chen could not kill the Chaos Grey Shark through the water. Moreover, he was also afraid of affecting the raft. In the water, Yi Chen swam even more nimbly than the Chaos Grey Shark. He pulled out his sword and stabbed it to death. The Chaos Grey Shark was only an ordinary kind of Chaos Grey Shark. In the next few days, Yi Chen saw all kinds of Chaos Grey Sharks. Most of them were under 10 meters, and some were over 10 meters. Although these Chaos Grey Sharks could not do anything to Yi Chen, they brought him quite a bit of trouble. After drifting for nearly a month, Yi Chen finally saw the coastline. It was a large island. Judging from the coastline, it was more than 100 times larger than the barren island. Riding the raft closer to the coast, Yi Chen raised his brows. He saw smoke curling up from a kitchen not far away. Someone was lighting a fire. Putting away the raft, Yi Chen walked in the direction of the smoke. Not someone from the mysterious yellow cosmos? In the distance, Yi Chen saw a strange man with 3 heads and 6 arms lighting a fire. Seeing Yi Chen, the other party was also very vigilant, carefully sizing up Yi Chen. "Who are you?" What surprised Yi Chen was that the other party's language was the same as the language of the mysterious yellow cosmos. Perhaps the Chaos Law had already unified the languages of the various universes. Otherwise, there was no way to communicate. I am Yi Chen from the mysterious yellow cosmos. The universe that Yi Chen was in was called the mysterious yellow cosmos. I am Meng Tuor from the ancient multiverse. The strange man with 3 heads and 6 arms said. Are you the only one on this island? Yi Chen started chatting with the other party. Other than me, there are other people on the island. I'm not sure how many of them are exactly. We rarely interact. Meng Tuor shook his head. Why don't you leave this island? Although this island was huge, it was still an island. Nothing. I just don't want to leave for now. A strange look flashed in Meng Tuor's eyes. Oh, then I won't disturb you anymore. Yi Chen turned and left. One less person means one less competitor. I hope he will leave in a few days, Meng Tuor thought to himself. Chapter 1424. Apart from Meng Tuor of Ancient Multiverse, Yi Chen also saw many people from other universes on the island. Some had 3 tails, some had 1 eye, and some had mouths growing all over their bodies. Each and every one of them had a strange appearance, allowing Yi Chen to broaden his horizons. A 1-meter-tall, ball-like life form from another universe took the initiative to greet Yi Chen. He said that he was from Longba universe and his name was Tuan Zi. Are you saying that there might be a primal chaos talisman on this island? Yi Chen looked at Tuan Zi's eyes. The other party's eyes were too small, like 2 black beans, but they were quite cute. That's right. Although there are more primal chaos talisman on the continent, the competition is too intense. The island is different, the competition is much smaller, and the bigger the island, the higher the probability of primal chaos talisman appearing. This is also the reason why we are not in a hurry to leave. Tuan Zi said honestly. Why are you telling me? Yi Chen felt a little strange. Everyone who came to the primal chaos battlefield only had one goal, and that was to gather primal chaos talisman 1 to 99. Only by gathering 99 primal chaos talisman in order would one be qualified to enter the heaven realm. For a primal chaos talisman, it was normal to fight to the death. Tuan Zi stretched out his chubby arm and touched his head. I am too weak, and it is impossible for me to snatch the primal chaos talisman. Since you can come here from other islands, your strength must be very strong. After you obtain this primal chaos talisman, can you bring me to the continent? Yi Chen thought about it and nodded. All right, as long as there is a primal chaos talisman here, I will bring you to the continent. In Yi Chen's opinion, once the primal chaos talisman appeared, the chances of him not getting it were very small. After all, the primal chaos battlefield was so big, and it was impossible for there to be elites everywhere. Hearing this, Tuan Zi was overjoyed. When he reached the continent, as long as he didn't participate in the competition, he would be able to live a peaceful life for 100,000 years. Our Longba universe is one of the weakest universes, but your black-yellow universe is very strong, and your combat skills are very good. You have to pay special attention to the Ancient Universe, Heaven Tyrant Universe, and Emperor Heaven Universe. They are especially good at combat, and are like fish in water in the primal chaos battlefield. Tuan Zi reminded. Yi Chen nodded. The primal chaos battlefield was covered by the laws of primal chaos. Be it speed, strength, or energy, they were all suppressed to an extremely low level. In the past, you could throw out thousands or tens of thousands of punches in an instant, but in the primal chaos battlefield, it was already considered amazing to be able to throw out a dozen punches in an instant. This caused battle techniques to be especially important. For example, Meng Ta from the ancient multiverse had 3 heads and 6 arms. This wasn't just for show. Fortunately, Yi Chen felt that he was also good at combat techniques, so there was no need for him to admit defeat. For the sake of the Chaos Talisman, Yi Chen could only temporarily stay on the island. This island was a few hundred times larger than the previous one, and the amount of light wood on it was also a few hundred times greater. This allowed Yi Chen to build more and better rafts. Every day, Yi Chen would either build a raft or search for light wood all over the island. In the blink of an eye, 3 months had passed. A roar came from the jungle. A chaos tiger pounced on Yi Chen with a foul wind. Tuan Zi was so scared that he hid behind Yi Chen. His chubby body trembled like a pile of jelly. Puff. Tuanzi didn't see how Yi Chen drew out his sword. All he saw was a flash of sword light. Blood splashed out from the neck of the Chaos Tiger, and its huge body slid away on the ground. Awesome! Tuanzi exclaimed. Every time he saw Yi Chen use his sword, he couldn't help but feel terrified. Each of his sword strikes was a fatal blow. Yi Chen came here to collect light wood. After making 20 small rafts, Yi Chen planned to build a big ship. But a big ship would need a lot of wood. Fortunately, there were enough light wood on this island. Buzz! In the afternoon, a golden beam of light suddenly shot up into the sky from the center of the island. It was extremely dazzling. The Chaos Talisman has appeared. Tuanzi exclaimed. You stay here. Yi Chen's face turned serious. He dashed towards the direction of the golden beam of light. Tuanzi looked around and climbed up a tree. It's the Chaos Talisman. On the other side of the island, Meng Tuo threw down the barbecued meat in his hand. He stared at the golden beam of light. 100,000 years seemed long enough, but it was not easy to collect 99 Chaos Talismans in order. One was one. Maybe at the last moment, it would be the one that was missing. 2 of his 6 arms were on the ground. Meng Tuo ran out like a beast. This Chaos Talisman will belong to me, Zachary. Zachary was a life form from the sky-dominating universe. He was tall, more than 2 meters tall. There were some tentacles on his chin. His eyes were like copper bells. 2 fangs extended out of his mouth, which looked like the teeth of a wild boar. His skin was not flesh, but dark red keratin like crocodile skin. This made him look extremely dangerous and scary. Crack! The ground cracked. Zachary dashed away. As the golden beam shot into the sky, most of the life forms on the island rushed over. They all wanted to get the Chaos Talisman. Conflicts were inevitable. It's from the ancient multiverse. A universe life form with sarcomas on his head was running. He glanced at Meng Tuo who was approaching. His expression turned unnatural. The ancient multiverse was one of the strongest universes. The life forms there were very good at fighting. The other universes couldn't compare. Not everyone in the ancient multiverse is strong. Maybe this one is very weak. Without reducing his speed, the 2 of them got closer. Get lost. Meng Tuo's body spun in the air. Dense blade lights flew out like a drill. Poochie. The universe life form with sarcomas on his head flew out. His body was full of blade wounds. So scary. I don't even have the power to resist. After sending the opponent flying, Meng Tuo continued running like a beast. His speed didn't slow down at all. At the same time, as Zachary was dashing forward, he grabbed the head of an otherverse life form. With a crack, the head exploded, and the other party died without being able to react from start to finish. Zachary's explosive power was too ferocious. Before the golden light column appeared, Yi Chen was looking for the light wood in the jungle, so he was the closest to the golden light column. After half an hour, Yi Chen saw the root of the golden light column. There was a golden light sphere, and inside it, there was a vague object. Increasing his speed, Yi Chen was only 10 meters away from the golden beam. Get lost. A sharp piercing sound came from the right. Another universe life form with long arms and a long spear dashed over. Yi Chen's expression didn't change. He continued to increase his speed. With a swoosh, the golden ball was destroyed. A golden talisman appeared in Yi Chen's hand. On it was the number 27. It's the 27th Chaos Talisman. Sizing up the primal Chaos Talisman, he put it away. Hand over the Chaos Talisman. The other universe lifeform's face was gloomy. Seeing his Chaos Talisman fall into someone else's hand, he was furious. Chapter 1425. Sorry, I have no reason to hand over what is in my hands. As for the upcoming battle, Yi Chen was looking forward to it. He had never fought with an other universe lifeform before and didn't know the characteristics of the other party. If he could grasp these characteristics, he wouldn't be caught off guard when he encountered more powerful other universe lifeforms in the future. Therefore, Yi Chen wouldn't use the law of water or the firmament sword. Without using the law of water, Yi Chen would barely have the strength of a beginner demigod. If he didn't use the firmament sword, he would be at the quasi-demigod level. After all, in the past 20,000 years, Yi Chen had improved a lot. His martial primordial spirit had broken through from the beginner silver level to the advanced silver level, and his soul had also turned into a golden soul. Then die. The other universe lifeform roared and thrust his spear over. The other party's arm was too long, almost reaching the soles of his feet. In addition to the length of the spear, this spear could hit Yi Chen from far away, and it was even more difficult for Yi Chen to attack the other party. The length of the sky sword wasn't even 1/3 of the other party's length. Ding! Yi Chen blocked the other party's spear with his sword. Die! The spear stabbed at Yi Chen one after another, and the spear flowers bloomed, getting faster and faster. Vibration. Yi Chen raised his eyebrows. The other party's arm was very long, and when it was stretched, it would produce a vibration force. Don't underestimate this vibration force. In fact, if it was in the universe, this vibration force would be very terrifying. The vibration force caused by the profound meaning of yin and yang, combined with the other party's body structure, was enough to destroy everything. However, this was the primal chaos battlefield, and everything was suppressed within an extremely small area. Only by experiencing it personally would one be able to feel it. At this moment, Yi Chen clearly felt that his arm was a little numb. Vibration universe lifeforms are extremely good at using vibration force. This person is going to lose. As time passed, other universe lifeforms rushed over. There were Meng Tuor, Zachary, and other universe lifeforms, a total of more than 10 figures. Damn it, they're all here. He did not care about the others, but he was very wary of the lifeforms from the ancient multiverse and Sky Tyrant universe. The lifeforms from the ancient multiverse had 3 heads and 6 arms, which meant that when 3 people surrounded you, no matter how strong the vibrations were, they would only be able to numb 1 or 2 of the opponent's arms. The remaining 4 arms were not to be trifled with. As for the Sky Tyrant universe, they were even more terrifying to a certain extent. Their body structure was very special, and they could be immune to many physical attacks, including vibrations. No, I have to go all out. If I miss this chance, I don't know when I'll get another Chaos Talisman. Gritting his teeth, he abruptly retracted his arm, and then quickly shot out. The long spear was like a furious flood dragon, and with the power of rotation and vibration, it charged towards Yi Chen. This was his killing move, Furious Whirlwind Dragon Spear. Almost there. Yi Chen had already figured out the characteristics of the lifeforms from the shocking universe. Their body structure was like rubber, which was naturally good at using vibrations, and it would not bring too much burden to their bodies. Unfortunately, the opponent's strength was only at the high-level legendary rank. No matter how strong the vibrations were, they were still weaker than the opponent. The third style of the 4 symbols sword art, Annihilation Sword, was executed. Yi Chen sent the opponent's long spear flying, and it stabbed into a towering tree nearby. The body of the spear was still vibrating, emitting a buzzing sound. All of you, come at me together. Yi Chen's gaze swept across Meng Tuor and the rest. This should be his true strength. Meng Tuor and Zachary's expression turned solemn. Obviously, Yi Chen had not used his full strength before. Once he got serious, the lifeforms from the shocking universe would not be his match. Although they felt that they were much stronger than this lifeform, Yi Chen was also not a fish on the chopping board. I'll go first. Zachary roared, and a fist flew towards Yi Chen. The powerful fist wind swept up the leaves on the ground, and the momentum was astonishing. What a tyrannical fist! Yi Chen could more or less see Zachary's characteristics, which were big and bold was built on strong confidence. Obviously, the opponent also had his own unique points. After estimating the strength of this fist, Yi Chen slashed over with his sword. Clang! The fist and sword clashed, but Yi Chen and Zachary did not retreat even half a step. Again, Zachary seemed to not feel the impact at all, and his right leg swept towards Yi Chen's waist like a bolt of lightning. Huh! Yi Chen's face flashed with surprise, and he quickly dodged. One kick after another, one punch after another, Zachary became more and more courageous, and it also let everyone see the uniqueness of the lifeforms from the Heaven Tyrant universe. Although their bodies looked very strong, and their defense was extremely strong, their insides were like a sponge. No matter how strong the force was, it would be dissolved by 70 to 80%. So that's how it is. Gradually, Yi Chen understood. The internal structure of the lifeforms from the Heaven Tyrant universe was similar to a beehive, and they could withstand a lot of pressure without being damaged. If he used 100% of his strength, only 10% or 20% of his strength would be effective, and with the physical strength of the lifeforms from the Heaven Tyrant universe, this bit of damage was nothing. Yin-Yang Wuji. Since he understood the uniqueness of the lifeforms from the Heaven Tyrant universe, Yi Chen naturally had a solution. Yin-Yang Sword Art's third style, Yin-Yang Wuji, was executed. Yi Chen's sword suddenly softened, and like a twisted sword light, it followed Zachary's flaws. No matter how Zachary counterattacked, the sword light did not clash head-on with him, and it avoided the strong and weak points, causing Zachary to retreat in a sorry state, and he no longer had the indomitable momentum from before. Poochie. The sword light was like a poisonous snake, drilling a bloody hole in Zachary's chest. His opponent's body structure was also not immune to it. Yi Chen's Yin-Yang Wuji looked gentle, but in fact, there was a hardness within that gentleness. The power was condensed like a needle, and it was almost impossible to dissolve. Whirlwind slash. From the side, a spiraling blade light rushed over. It was Meng Ta. Meng Ta was a life form from the ancient multiverse universe, and he was born with 3 heads and 6 arms. This caused his attacks to be different from other life forms from the other universes. It was continuous, as if there was no end to it, and there was no gap in the middle. In a situation where the attack power was similar, the life forms from the ancient multiverse universe could instantly kill their opponent like it was a game. 6 arms holding 6 blades, Meng Ta's body spun as he attacked Yi Chen. The blade light was connected in a chain, and not to mention dealing with it, even dodging was difficult. As for Meng Ta, even if Yi Chen did not probe him, he knew his opponent's specialty. 3 heads and 6 arms, it was equivalent to 3 people fusing into one, and 1 person was equivalent to 3 people. However, there was no perfect object in this world, and Yi Chen would never be fooled by a perfect person's appearance. 3 heads and 6 arms might seem powerful, but one had to know that the more frequent the attacks, the more openings there would be. Most importantly, the center of gravity of 3 heads and 6 arms could be easily grasped, and there would be less variation in movement. Of course, this did not mean that the life forms from the ancient multiverse universe were not strong. On the contrary, they were very strong, but they were not truly perfect. Ding, 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 ding. Sparks exploded between Meng Ta and Yi Chen. In an instant, no one knew how many blades Meng Ta had slashed out, but what shocked everyone was that Yi Chen had blocked them without missing a single blade. Chapter 1426. Let's see how you block it. Meng Ta saw that Yi Chen didn't miss a single strike, and his heart turned vicious. His spinning speed became even faster, and the speed of his blade had at least doubled. Previously, he was in his normal state, and now he was in his explosive state. Although this state couldn't last long, it could still last for a period of time. Clang 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 clang, dense sparks interweaved together, and they were as viscous as magma. If it was someone else, they might have to use force to defeat Meng Ta, but Yi Chen didn't plan to do so. This time, he had encountered Meng Ta, and if he met someone thousands of times stronger than Meng Ta, then he wouldn't be able to fight. After all, he wouldn't be able to gain the upper hand every time. Lightly touching the ground, Yi Chen flew backward, and Meng Ta chased after him, not giving Yi Chen any chance to increase the distance. But for Yi Chen, it was enough to temporarily increase the distance. Heaven's sword in his hand shook, and 9 formless whirlpools appeared around Meng Ta. Spacetime Sword Art's third style, Black Hole Form. In the primal chaos battlefield, black hole form couldn't create a real black hole, but it could create a whirlpool. The power of the whirlpool wasn't great, but it could affect the opponent's center of gravity. As expected, not good. Meng Ta accidentally bumped into a whirlpool, and his center of gravity immediately changed, causing him to stagger. Swish! Yi Chen was like a venomous snake waiting for a chance to hunt. Heaven's sword turned into a beam of light, and he attacked Meng Ta. Open! Meng Ta had 3 heads and 6 arms, and even if his center of gravity was unstable, he could still use his other arms to block. This was the terrifying part of the ancient multiverse. Although the center of gravity was a weakness, it was only relatively speaking, and it didn't mean that he wouldn't be able to resist at all. If that was the case, the ancient multiverse wouldn't be one of the powerful universes. Yi Chen didn't think that he could finish off his opponent with one sword, and the first sword was just the beginning. Ding 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 ding. Previously, Meng Ta was the main attacker, and now it was Yi Chen's turn. White sword light spurted out, and Meng Ta was covered in it. 1 step. 2 steps. Yi Chen did not give Meng Ta a chance to stabilize his center of gravity. He let Meng Ta sway around and did not manage to stand straight at all. Meanwhile, Yi Chen's sword was slowly tearing apart Meng Ta's protective net, Meng Ta's 6 arms that held the sword. This is the moment. With Yi Chen's sword speed, none of Meng Tuo's 6 arms would be able to save him. Hiss! Fresh blood sprayed as Yi Chen's sword pierced through Meng Tuo's chest, and then his figure floated backwards, causing others to feel as if he'd done it with ease. It had to be said that Meng Tuo was harder to deal with than the Sky Tyrant universe lifeform. But overall, Yi Chen felt that the Sky Tyrant universe lifeform might be more powerful. Immunity to most physical attacks was too overpowered. In the future, if he encountered other lifeforms of the ancient multiverse or Sky Tyrant universe, Yi Chen did not dare to think that he would be able to win. Let's go. It was obvious that no one had given up and planned to attack together. This was mainly because Yi Chen did not use his full strength. It seemed that he was only slightly stronger than Meng Ta and Zachary. Sorry for offending you. Meng Tuo's expression was a little unnatural. Yi Chen had the chance to kill him just now, but there was no other way. The primal chaos talisman was too important, and no one was willing to give it up. At most, he would just stop the others from killing Yi Chen. Kill. The spear-wielding Zhen universe lifeform took the lead. Yi Chen sneered. Even if he didn't use the law of water and firmament, he was not someone that a mob could contend against. His rank 9 sword intent and golden soul gave him the capital to look down on everyone. Without any technique, Yi Chen just used the simplest 4-elephant tyrant sword. 4-elephant tyrant sword was the first style of the 4-elephant sword art. It was derived from the tyrant sword style, and it didn't require any technique. It only required one sword, and one could either dodge or take it head-on. Boom! The ground shook, and the 3 of them were sent flying with blood spurting out of their mouths. Among them, the spear-wielding Zhen universe lifeform even broke a tree, and his body was almost broken into 2. Boom! 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 Without any pause, Yi Chen slashed out 3 times consecutively, and it was also the 4-elephant tyrant sword. In the next instant, everyone was sent flying. Not a single person could get close to Zachary. Even though Zachary was a tyrannical universe lifeform and was immune to most physical attacks, under the absolute suppression, he still couldn't withstand it and was directly sent flying. What? Meng Tuo and Zachary were shocked, and they suspected that they were hallucinating. Isn't he only a little stronger than me? Meng Tuo thought. Damn it, he hid his strength. This strength is definitely at the quasi-demigod level. Zachary understood that he and Meng Tuo were both peak legendary supremes, and only quasi-demigods could suppress peak legendary supremes. If demigods didn't appear, quasi-demigods could be said to be invincible. In fact, there was an even more powerful existence above quasi-demigods, and that was heaven-defying supremes. Heaven-defying supremes weren't demigods, but they had the strength to contend against demigods. Yi Chen was undoubtedly a heaven-defying supremes. After finding Tuanzi, Yi Chen immediately set off with him. On the boundless sea, Yi Chen and Tuanzi were standing on the raft. Yi Chen didn't want to use the big boat. There was only one, and he would wait until the raft was used up. The weather on the sea changed suddenly. It was calm a moment ago, but the next moment, the wind was blowing, the waves were soaring, and the sky was covered with dark clouds, making it hard for people to breathe. Feeling that the raft wasn't stable, Yi Chen had to change to the big boat. The big boat was 100 meters long and 40 meters wide. The deck was very spacious, and the sail was made of animal skin, which was very strong. At this moment, the sail was taken down to welcome the storm. The big waves lifted the boat into the air for a while, and then submerged the boat. Tuanzi hid in the cabin, tightly holding the handle on the wall, and looked nervous. He wasn't Yi Chen, and if he fell into the sea, he would definitely die. Boom! A bolt of chaotic lightning illuminated the pitch-black space, striking the sea until it was smoking. Yi Chen had been standing at the bow of the boat, and the fiercely shaking boat couldn't throw him out. Admiring the storm on the sea of chaos, Yi Chen praised in his heart. He hadn't felt such an oppressive atmosphere for a long time. In the more than 20,000 years in the black-yellow universe, except for some challenges in the early stage, the middle and later stages were very peaceful, and his body seemed to be rusting. Du Guju had always been longing for the battlefield of chaos, and in fact, he was also longing for it. On the sea, the waves were turbulent, and the wind was raging. Under the sea, it was calm, and there was a hidden undercurrent. No one knew that a huge figure quietly came under the big boat. The storm on the Sea of Chaos was caused by natural causes, but there was actually another situation that could cause a storm. The level 6 chaos creature, Chaotic Thunder Whale. Once the Chaotic Thunder Whale wanted to hunt, it would form a storm. This kind of storm came and went as fast as lightning. Boom! A big hole appeared on Yi Chen's boat, and it flew high, almost hitting the clouds in the sky. On the way, it was broken into 2 parts, and the broken parts were flashing and crackling. Chapter 14:27. In midair, Yi Chen sized up the uninvited guest below. It was a huge blue and white whale with a single horn on its head. It was that horn that poked a hole in the ship, and its head smashed the ship into the sky, breaking it in half. However, what caught Yi Chen's attention was not the size of the whale, but the electric arcs on its body. If Yi Chen guessed correctly, this whale must have been born with the law of thunder. Comprehending the law of thunder was different from being born with the power of the law. The former had a wider range of application and was more lethal, while the latter could only be used unconsciously and treated as an instinct. Even so, the giant whale that was born with the law of thunder was not easy to deal with. Not to mention supremes, even beginner demigods would have to avoid it. It was not that they couldn't defeat it, but there was no need to fight it to the death. The whale was so huge, and it would be very difficult to kill it. Chaos Thunder Whale. On the half of the ship, Tuanzi looked at the blue and white whale with fear. The Chaos Thunder Whale was a level 6 chaotic creature, which was an existence that only beginner demigods could fight against. Half of the Chaos Thunder Whale's body was above the sea, waiting for the ship to land. Take this. Yi Chen took out Firmament Sword and slashed down with a wave sword. In an instant, boundless seawater and torrential rain converged together, transforming into a waterfall-like wave that surged down like a river. Immediately after, the waterfall transformed into a blue sword light, slashing down with boundless might. The Chaos Thunder Whale's eyes turned serious. It leaped out of the sea with all its might, and the horn on its head flickered with lightning as it headed toward the blue sword light. Boom! The electric arcs exploded, and water vapor filled the air. The Chaos Thunder Whale flew back and fell into the sea. The ship under Yi Chen's feet was instantly torn apart by the electric arcs and water vapor. Fortunately, he had the protection of the Black Tortoise sacred armor, so the remaining law of water and law of thunder couldn't hurt him. Seeing that Tuanzi and the other half of the ship were about to fall into the sea, Yi Chen had no choice but to use the law of water to form a water rope to wrap around Tuanzi and pull him over. Law of water? Tuanzi felt like his brain was going blank. Yi Chen had actually comprehended the water rule. This was something that many high-level demigods could not do. Not intending to fight the primal Chaos Thunder Whale to the death, Yi Chen and Tuanzi's figures instantly turned transparent. They turned into 2 water men and flew out. Their speed was so fast that it surpassed the speed of sound. However, they were silent. It was the water movement technique. The water movement technique allowed Yi Chen to move freely in the primal chaos battlefield. Flying was also one of its abilities. Rumble. The seawater jumped and shook, and the chaotic thunder whale rushed out of the sea again. Unfortunately, Yi Chen and Tuanzi had already run far away, and not even their shadows could be seen. Unwilling to give up, the primal chaos thunder whale gradually sank into the sea. The raft fell into the water, and Yi Chen and Tuanzi landed on it. Yi Chen, you are so awesome. Tuanzi admired Yi Chen very much. If Yi Chen was a junior demigod, he wouldn't admire him so much. Don't flatter me. Next, we need to find some islands and build a new big ship. Yi Chen shook his head and sighed. The only big ship he had was scrapped after sitting on it for a short while. It was really unlucky. It seemed that he had to be more careful in the next storm. Primal chaos thunder whales were quite common in the Sea of Chaos. Drifting on the sea, more than 30 years had passed without them noticing. During these 30 years, nearly 200 rafts and 15 big ships had been destroyed. If it weren't for the fact that they would always encounter some islands along the way, Yi Chen and Tuanzi would have to swim across the sea. On this day, when the two passed by a lifeless volcanic island, a beam of golden light shot up from the center of the volcanic island. Primal Chaos Talisman? Yi Chen was surprised. This island wasn't very big. Logically speaking, the probability of a Primal Chaos Talisman appearing was very low. Tuanzi said, "You are really lucky. Primal Chaos Talisman doesn't necessarily appear in places with dense life in the universe. Some desolate places may also have Primal Chaos Talisman. In the later stages of the Primal Chaos battlefield, many people who don't have enough Primal Chaos Talisman will explore everywhere to find the missing Primal Chaos Talisman. If you are lucky, you can also collect all the Primal Chaos Talisman. You stay here. I'll be right back." Turning into a waterman, Yi Chen soared into the sky and skimmed towards the volcanic island. The water movement technique was very useful for Yi Chen. Without it, Yi Chen might have been eaten by the primal chaos thunder whale. Without the water movement technique, Yi Chen wouldn't be able to move freely on the vast sea. In a few blinks of an eye, Yi Chen appeared in the center of the volcanic island. "It's a blue primal chaos talisman?" Yi Chen's face revealed a surprised expression again. A supreme martial artist only needed to collect 99 golden primal chaos talisman in order. But a demigod needed to collect not only the golden primal chaos talisman, but also the 9 blue primal chaos talisman. Although the number of blue primal chaos talisman was far less than the golden primal chaos talisman, it was 10,000 times rarer than the golden primal chaos talisman. Wherever the blue primal chaos talisman appeared, it would definitely be accompanied by danger. Near this blue primal chaos talisman, Yi Chen found a huge flaming bird. It was a level 6 chaos creature, primal flaming bird. Gah! As soon as Yi Chen appeared, the primal flaming bird noticed Yi Chen. With a shrill cry, the primal flaming bird opened its mouth and spat out fireballs at Yi Chen. These fireballs were extremely fast, like red lasers. Boom! A dormant volcano was hit by the fireballs, and it suddenly exploded, turning into ashes. The surging waves of fire burned the sky red. Danger! Yi Chen's heart quivered. This primal flaming bird was stronger than the primal chaos thunder whale. At least it knew how to use the law of fire. Using the water movement technique again, Yi Chen turned into a waterman and flew toward the sea. As for the blue primal chaos talisman, Yi Chen didn't think about it. First, he wasn't a demigod yet, so he didn't need to collect all the blue primal chaos talisman. Secondly, with the primal flaming bird here, even a low-level demigod wouldn't be able to deal with it, let alone him. Gah! What Yi Chen did not expect happened. The primal flaming bird seemed to be proficient in the fire movement technique. Flames covered its body, and with a flap of its wings, it chased after Yi Chen. Yi Chen did not know that the level 6 chaos creatures guarding the blue primal chaos talisman were all top-notch level 6 chaos creatures. They were invincible under level 7. Sometimes, it was even level 7 chaos creatures that guarded the blue primal chaos talisman. One chased and the other fled, and the two arrived at the vast sea. Yi Chen's speed was obviously faster. After all, Yi Chen was very proficient in the water movement technique. The primal flaming bird's half-baked fire movement technique could not be compared to him. Gradually, the primal flaming bird was left far behind. However, the primal flaming bird did not seem to be too far away from the blue primal chaos talisman. It quickly turned around and flew toward the volcano island. That was close. From afar, Yi Chen let out a breath of turbid air. This primal flaming bird actually knew the fire movement technique. This was beyond his imagination. In fact, only a small portion of level 6 chaos creatures were born with the law of fire, such as the primal chaos thunder whale, primal chaos flaming bird, and primal chaos vigorous whale. Those that knew how to use the law of fire were even fewer. This primal flaming bird was an anomaly. Yi Chen guessed that this should be the primal flaming bird king. Chapter 1428. The Bird King's example told Yi Chen that the first thing to do when he saw the blue chaos talisman in the future was not to collect it, but to run as far as possible. The chaotic ocean was boundless. Yi Chen and Tuan Zi drifted for another 20 years. They didn't know when they would find a continent. On a volcanic island far away from them, a one-eyed being arrived. The one-eyed being didn't understand the laws of nature, but he could ride the wind and wasn't restricted by the chaotic ocean. Gah! The Bird King noticed the one-eyed being and attacked first. Its whole body was covered in flames. "You're just a level 6 chaos creature. Get lost." The one-eyed being waved his hand, and the Bird King was sent flying. Countless burning feathers fell into the ocean. It's the number 4 blue chaos talisman. The blue chaos talisman landed on the one-eyed being's hand. There was a 4 written on it. Keeping the blue chaos talisman, the one-eyed being looked at the Bird King. This bird knew how to use the laws of nature. If he was just a beginner demigod, he wouldn't be its opponent. Demigods had a golden martial arts yuanshan, which could remove the gravitational pull of the chaotic battlefield. Their survival ability was many times higher than that of a supreme. The one-eyed being was too lazy to deal with the Bird King, so he left in a flash. However, the Bird King didn't appreciate it at all. It used the fire travel technique and chased after him. Die! The one-eyed lifeform turned around and grabbed at the air with his right hand. Creak! A transparent hand appeared near the Chaos Flame Bird King and grabbed it. However, the one-eyed lifeform had miscalculated. The fire movement technique caused the Chaos Flame Bird King's body to transform into energy. As the transparent hand grabbed it, the Chaos Flame Bird King exploded and reformed into a physical body far away. The laws of nature are so amazing. The one-eyed being frowned. This was the first time he saw the laws of nature. He didn't expect it to be so difficult. Feeling that the Bird King was hard to deal with, the one-eyed being didn't want to fight it anymore. After all, even if he spent a lot of time to kill it, it wouldn't do him any good. Pushing his speed to the limit, the one-eyed being managed to shake off the Bird King. After losing the enemy and losing the blue chaos talisman, the Bird King didn't return to the volcanic island. Instead, it flew in another direction and killed a thunder whale to vent its anger. The chaotic ocean contained endless dangers. Yi Chen and Tuan Zi were like rootless duckweeds, drifting around. In the beginning, the two of them were still talking and laughing, often communicating. Later on, the two of them went into seclusion, neither of them disturbing the other. Sometimes, they only spoke once every 2 or 3 months. Yi Chen realized that the primal chaos battlefield was a blessed land for cultivation. His martial arts primordial spirit had improved greatly in the spring of the future, but his foundation was still weak. He estimated that it would take tens of thousands of years for it to stabilize. He didn't expect that the primal chaos battlefield's primordial spirit would be especially nourishing. It's not impossible to become a demigod in 100,000 years. Before coming to the primal chaos battlefield, Yi Chen definitely wouldn't have such a thought. This was a sign. Of course, being a demigod was still too far away from Yi Chen. He would think about it in the future. 100 years. 200 years. 300 years. Yi Chen and Tuanzi had been drifting in the chaotic ocean for 300 years. Tuanzi didn't care. He wanted to go to the chaotic mainland to find a safe place and didn't want to take any risks. Now, it was quite safe to follow Yi Chen. As for when they would reach the mainland, it didn't matter. Yi Chen started to worry about Shu Jing and Murong Qingcheng. Heavenly Saint tools were both a blessing and a curse. They could help to block disasters, but they could also attract disasters. Let alone the two of them, even Yi Chen didn't think that he could run amok in the primal chaos battlefield. He would still have to take a detour if he met a beginner demigod or intermediate demigod. In the 300 years, Yi Chen didn't come out empty-handed. Other than the number 27 Chaos Talisman, he also got a number 55 Chaos Talisman. According to Tuanzi, they were very lucky. In the 350th year, the two were surprised to find that there seemed to be more life forms in the universe nearby. In the past, they wouldn't see a life form in the universe for 8 to 10 years. In the 380th year, Yi Chen learned from a life form in the universe that the chaotic mainland was nearby. "I've finally reached the mainland." Looking at the endless coastline, Yi Chen let out a sigh of relief. 380 years felt like 38,000 years to him. There were many ships coming and going. It was a prosperous scene. However, this prosperity was very abnormal. One could often see life forms killing each other. Blood spilled in the ocean. No one knew how many universes there were, and no one knew how many life forms had come to the primal chaos battlefield. Some universes seemed to have a blood feud with each other, killing each other on sight. "You two, hand over your storage space." A huge ship approached. On the bow, a life form with a huge head said to Yi Chen and Tuanzi. Storage space was a rough idea. Mysterious Yellow Universe referred to storage rings, while Longba Universe referred to storage crystals. Either way, they all contained a space that could store objects. Get lost. Yi Chen didn't care about exposing his strength. If he didn't do so at this time, it would be troublesome. Activating the water rule, Yi Chen condensed a water ball in his hand and threw it out. In the next moment, a shockwave erupted, blasting the opponent's ship into pieces. Dozens of life forms were blasted away. Whether they died or not, Yi Chen didn't know, nor did he care. What he cared about was whether or not he could intimidate the surrounding life forms that were eyeing them covetously. Yi Chen's move of killing the chicken to warn the monkey indeed had an effect. When they fought, they jumped onto the opponent's ship and engaged in close combat. However, Yi Chen directly threw out a water ball and blew up the opponent's ship. They weren't on the same level at all. It's the water rule. Fortunately, we didn't provoke him. Another heaven-defying sovereign. They are both sovereigns, but the gap is so big. It's really unfair. Amidst the discussions of the other life forms, Yi Chen's ship sailed smoothly. Standing on the deck, Tuanzi felt very proud. In the past 380 years, countless battles for the primal chaos symbols had taken place in the primal chaos continent. With each battle, powerful people stood out. Not to mention demigods, there was nothing to compete with. There was already a great realm difference between them. The ones who were the focus of everyone's attention were the heaven-defying sovereigns. There were simply too many universes, and there were bound to be some shocking existences. Yi Chen would not be the only one. Moreover, the number of universes that were more powerful than mysterious yellow cosmos were not few. Previously, Yi Chen had already encountered 2 ancient multitude cosmos and sky tyrant cosmos. Presumably, there were even more universes. Therefore, the existence of heaven-defying sovereigns like Yi Chen was only natural. The primal chaos continent was very big. Just like the golden primal chaos symbol, it was divided into 90 regions. Each region was separated by a natural barrier. The region Yi Chen was heading to was the 48th region. Chapter 1429. The Chaos Land was extremely chaotic. Anyone who was suspected of possessing a golden chaos talisman would be hunted down. Those who were not strong enough would not be able to survive for 100,000 years. Along the way, Yi Chen saw dozens of killings that were even more chaotic and cruel than the ocean. Yi Chen was already used to it. The Chaos Land was not called the Chaos Land for nothing. Everyone would go crazy for the Golden Chaos Talisman. Although the 48 regions were only one of the 99 regions in the Chaos Land, it was extremely vast. It was said that it would take 10 years to cross the entire 48 regions by foot. In the center of the 48 regions, there was a town called the Region Town. Every region had one. The Region Town could only accommodate 1,000 people at most. The others could stay in the town, but they would have to leave at night. There was a time limit for staying in the Region Town. After 10,000 years, they would not be able to stay anymore. Within 10,000 years, they would have to work every day, and they would have to pay 10 trillion yuan stones. The reason why it was so harsh was that killing was not allowed in the Region Town. Even demigods would not be able to kill anyone in the Region Town. As long as they did not leave the Region Town, they would be extremely safe. Luckily, I have prepared 10 trillion yuan stones. Tuanzi was not strong, but her wealth impressed Yi Chen. After paying 10 trillion yuan stones, Tuanzi officially became a member of the 48 Region Town. Currently, the Region Town was not full yet. After all, it was not easy to gather 10 trillion yuan stones. Besides, the Chaos Land was covered by the Chaos Law. Every move would consume energy very quickly. One would have to have enough yuan stones to replenish their energy. Otherwise, the energy would be depleted very quickly. Yi Chen, thank you for bringing me here.
Thank you.
Tuanzi said gratefully. It's nothing. Yi Chen said, oh right, what will you do after 10,000 years? A person could only stay in the Region Town for 10,000 years. After 10,000 years, they would still have to leave. I will take one step at a time. Actually, the number of life forms in the universe will be reduced by half. The outside world will not be as dangerous as it is now. As long as I am careful, I will have a high chance of surviving. Tuanzi said seriously. That's true. Yi Chen nodded. It was indeed the most dangerous time. There were too many life forms in the universe, and they were everywhere. See you in the future. Yi Chen said goodbye to Tuanzi and left the town. He couldn't hide in the town like Tuanzi did. He had to figure out the situation in the 48 domains first and then see if he could find Xu Jing and Murong Qingcheng. In the 150th year after he arrived at the 48th region, countless golden lights soared into the sky, and a large number of golden chaos talismans appeared. All the universe life forms in the 48 domains went crazy as they fought for the golden chaos symbols. Yi Chen was no exception. Because the 48 domains were extremely vast, Yi Chen could only stare at the golden light. This time, he managed to snatch 2 golden chaos talismans. They were the number 7 and 33 chaos talismans. Fighting and killing were everywhere. A group of people passed by a python head peak. One of them glanced over and saw a person sitting cross-legged on the python head peak. Look, there's someone there. Intercept him. They were a gang that made a living by robbing others. Once they obtained a golden chaotic talisman, they would split it equally. This time, they would give it to you, and next time, they would give it to me. No one dared to be greedy. Do you want to die? Don't you know that the python head peak is occupied by a heaven-defying supreme being? It's good enough that he didn't rob us. The other person was shocked and quickly stopped him. The person on the python head peak was Yi Chen. After fighting for the chaos symbols several times, his reputation had spread. Basically, no one dared to provoke him. Some demigods didn't believe it and wanted to defeat Yi Chen to get his wealth. In the end, they were killed by Yi Chen. Since then, no one dared to go near the python head peak anymore. However, Yi Chen felt that he wasn't strong enough. He needed to improve. After 500 years in the chaos battlefield, his martial path primordial spirit had stabilized. He planned to break through to the silver peak level. This way, even if he encountered a mid-level demigod, he would have the confidence to escape. Therefore, while others were busy fighting, he was busy cultivating and using the chaos energy to nourish his martial path primordial spirit. Opening his eyes, Yi Chen thought to himself, I'm already quite famous in the 48 regions. I hope that Xu Jing and Murong can get some information about me. Yi Chen had his reasons for being so flamboyant. It was very difficult for him to find the two of them by himself. Therefore, he planned to spread his name. In the 1000th year in the Chaos battlefield, a large number of golden chaos symbols appeared in the 48 regions again. There were even 2 blue chaos symbols, which led to a chaotic battle between several demigods. One of the demigods fell, and the scene was very shocking. Under normal circumstances, even a heaven-defying supreme being wouldn't dare to provoke a low-level demigod. After all, a heaven-defying supreme being could only fight against a low-level demigod if they went all out. In terms of endurance, a heaven-defying supreme being was much weaker than a low-level demigod. This time, Yi Chen's luck was good. The 3 golden chaos symbols weren't far from each other, and Yi Chen got them one by one. Currently, Yi Chen had a total of 7 golden chaos symbols, and none of them were duplicates. You want me to hand over the golden chaos symbols? Dream on. On an island in the 48 region lake, a metallic lifeform glared at the tentacle lifeform floating in the air. The metallic lifeform on the island was the same as Yi Chen, a heaven-defying supreme being. He comprehended the metal law and could condense a golden armor. Even a low-level demigod couldn't break through his defense. When fighting, he could condense a golden spear. Apart from a low-level demigod, no one could dodge his spear. If you don't hand it over, then die. The tentacle lifeform was a low-level demigod. His figure flashed, and the tentacles on his body instantly grew longer and thicker. They coiled around the metallic lifeform like pythons. Break for me. The metallic lifeform emitted a golden light as it condensed a golden armor to protect itself. Then, a golden light flashed in its hand, and a golden spear appeared. It swept the spear towards the tentacle lifeform. Crackle. The two fought fiercely, and the waves on the lake surged. In the end, the metallic lifeform died miserably, and the tentacle lifeform was heavily injured. When a heaven-defying supreme being erupted, it was hard for a low-level demigod not to be injured. If not for the fact that the metallic lifeform couldn't continuously use the metal law, the tentacle lifeform wouldn't even dare to say that he would have the last laugh. He had underestimated the heaven-defying supreme being. At the same time, the other demigods of the 48 regions were also looking for other heaven-defying supreme beings. Apart from demigods, the heaven-defying supreme beings obtained the most golden chaos symbols. Obtaining a heaven-defying supreme being's golden chaos symbol could save one many years of hard work. A low-level demigod also came to the Python Head Peak where Yi Chen was at. This was a low-level demigod with a pig's head. His tusks were extremely long, like 2 large scimitars. He was over 3 meters tall, and his body was covered in a dark green shell. Hand over the golden chaos symbols, and I'll spare your life. The pig-headed lifeform shouted loudly. Yi Chen had already woken up from his cultivation. He sized up the pig-headed lifeform and frowned. Although you're a low-level demigod, you can't do anything to me. Shameless boasting. Since you don't want to hand them over, then die. Pulling out his tusks, the pig-headed lifeform charged towards Yi Chen. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.